It's the weekend, which means it is once again time for the SPL. Finch and Gore here to start things off for you today. And we've already had a weekend full of upsets, right? United Obey, formerly thought of as the bottom of the SPL, got big upsets yesterday. Obey in the 2-1, as well as United in the 2-1 over Radiance and Sanguine. An upheaval here in the SPL, which means that coming into Saturday with Ghost and SSG and Sanguine and Pittsburgh Knights, up is down, down is up. Anything could be anything here today, Gore.
Yeah, I want to say it's maybe best news for the Knights. If everybody's punching up, they're the ones that are going to be able to come through, because you look at Ghost Gaming and SSG, and you could tell me Ghost Gaming win, you could tell me Spacestation win, and either way, I agree with you. Like, it does feel like one of those matches that maybe is favored 51-49 to SSG, but really is just kind of split right down the middle between the two as something that goes up against the top. But right now, I mean, with the league kind of getting flipped on its head, you never know what to expect.
You really don't. United getting their first win of the season, now improving to 1-10. Able to finally get one in that win column. A big pile up there between 7th place all the way up to 5th place, around 3 or 4 wins. So there's a lot at stake in every last one of these matches as we start to get closer and closer towards the end of this phase. But this first match, we're going to look at Ghost up against SSG. And I want to talk specifically about SSG first here, because they are playing lights out right now, Gore. I don't know if there's anyone that could stop this team when they're playing perfectly. And I think a big piece of that for SSG is Cheerio, right? He can play anything that you need for him. He's like the Swiss Army knife jungler, it feels like at times.
And he comes into this, he's tied with Nika for top kills on the team when it comes down to it. He does an incredibly good job, I think, in being able to set up not only a variety of picks, but also just setting up his team in general. I mean, he will come in with, I think, I've seen 3 different gods already in this highlight reel, and he'll be happy to play it, whether it's someone like the Raven that gets in and aggressive a little bit faster, or someone like the Kali that we've seen SSG love that does take a little bit of time in the oven before it comes out. He's the top first bloods on his team. He is a huge portion that is the driving factor for them to set things up. And then, late game when you have a solo laner like Nika to back you up, I don't think you're ever going to be feeling too much threatened for them. And like you said, they've been doing so well lately. I mean, they're on a 6-game streak. But it does come, with that little star on the side, because the last time Spacestation lost Finch, it was against Ghost Gaming. It was in week 3. It was so long ago, it feels like. But this was the last team they lost to, so hopefully they've been doing their homework and watching these games, because this is going to be one that puts them to the test.
Yeah, the reason they're only on a 6-game win streak and not perhaps a longer one is Ghost. So certainly scary, I think, if you're a Space Station fan. And this Ghost team has been looking a bit more mortal, I would say, of late here.
Yeah.
Gore Miser been showing a bit more vulnerability that we've seen from them before. But this is still perhaps the most formidable squad that we have here in the SPL when they're clicking on all cylinders. And obviously, we're going to talk about Cheerio on one end, then we have to talk about Sam on the other end and everything he's able to do for this squad. I think he is in the conversation for just best player we have in the SPL right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's been top kills in the SPL for a while, at least here in Phase 2. He was the first one to hit 100, I think a couple of weeks in a row, or at least 2 weeks in this phase. He's been able to get over 30 kills throughout it, and sometimes only in one set, so that's how impactful he'll be in a lot of these. Again, going jungle for jungle, he's also the setup guy. He's the guy with the most first bloods. He's the guy who's a driving factor for Ghost Gaming. And the thing is I think Space Station without Cheerio can function more or less. I feel like Ghost, if Sam isn't going to have a good game, then everybody has to just turn their accelerant up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, it's not something that they can just keep playing and things will be fine. If Sam isn't there having a great performance, then things do just tend to slip up for him. And you have to look back. I mean, recently they've lost to Renegades in a 2-0, and it's one of those things that, yeah, sometimes you have bad games. We'll have to see if they've been able to bounce back from a performance like that, because otherwise this is going to be a lot faster than a lot of people hope.
Man, I wonder if you're right about them struggling when Sam has a bad game. Maybe it's hypothetical, because I've never seen Sam have a bad game, but I'm with you, right? This guy, critical to what they do. It seems like, right, he's one of those players that so rarely makes a mistake, or so rarely is the reason why things go off the rails for Ghost. They're able to play through him at every stage of the game, in the early, the mid, and the late. They know that Sam can be the one that's facilitating for them, setting up and following up when it's time for the damage to come through as well. Speaking of Sam, we'll hear a little bit more of his thoughts. He's the one that we got standing by for the end.
Alright, everybody, I am here with Sam for Soccer, jungler, of course, for Ghost Gaming. They're going up against SSG today, so I'll be asking him a few questions, picking his brain. Sam, first off, it's been a bye week here for you guys. How did the team spend the break? Probably nice to have some downtime for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. I think we took like the first couple days of the week off, like Monday and Tuesday. I think maybe Ben went on a trip to like see his brother, but outside of that we just scrimmed like normal. Just tried to like um create like a strategy I guess we'd like
Right.
to use to play SSG.
Yeah, that's right. You're going up against SSG, a team that's been on a hot streak up to this point. The only set that they've lost here in Phase 2 was against you guys earlier on, a 2-0 for you. The first time you played them, absolutely on a streak here at SSG. You guys are playing, of course, very well here in Phase 2 as well. What's your confidence like going against SSG? You feel like could be another 2-0 for you guys, maybe a 2-1, but maybe the win nonetheless.
Yeah, I think our confidence is definitely really high. I think we had a really good week of scrims too. Not that always means you're gonna win, but I think from that, we're definitely feeling really good. I expect us to win for sure. I think a 2-0 wouldn't be out of the question, but they're a good team for sure. So who knows?
That's right. That's where the confidence should be, and you know, a new god, of course, available here very shortly in these games. Tsukiyomi is now going to be playable. What do you think about Tsukiyomi? Do you think we might see him in some of these games?
Yeah, for sure. I'd expect him to be picked generally. I don't know if he'll be picked in this set or not. I think he's like pretty good, but I don't think he's like broken or bad. So he's definitely in like the spot where he could get picked, but I don't know if he'll get picked here necessarily.
Sure. Something to keep our eyes open for. Kind of final thoughts, and this is more just on the phase as a whole. You know, the second time now that you're playing up against SSG, does anything really change from the first time? Do you take anything away from that matchup, or are you playing more towards how they've been playing recently and play more towards how you've been playing recently rather than how things were, you know, a month or two ago?
I think it's probably more towards like recent play. I don't know if they had their necessarily best set when we played them, and I think they've changed some stuff too. So yeah, probably more towards the recent like matches and things like that.
Sure. Well, Sam, best of luck here. It's going to be an absolute blast of a set to watch. Best of luck, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Sounds like Sam and the Ghost Boys are feeling confident, but maybe not too confident about their chances, at least based on how things have been going for them in scrims behind the scenes. Be a little bit coy on the Tsukiyomi. Perhaps we will end up seeing that, you know, or we'll get a chance to find out. It will be in those picks and bans, which are not too far away here at this point, Gore. I think any time that we get a chance to kind of sit down, listen to what's up with some of these players, hear how they're feeling behind the scenes, always so insightful. Sam, maybe a man of few words, but still giving us a good idea on how Ghost is feeling.
Yeah, I think it's something, again, to be said. A team like this will recognize that sometimes it's not always going to work out for them, right? You're going to make some mistakes. And the thing is I think every time you ask them, at least every time I've got the opportunity to, they've always said that they'd much rather lose here in Phase 2, you know, in a set where maybe things don't matter, you know, losing something like 2-0 to Renegades, where at the end of the day, is that really going to be a bad mark against them if they're making a run for World Championship? No. So as long as they're finding something from those losses and growing from it, I think things are going to be pretty much back on rails for them. And this is a good team, again, just to heat check, I think, both of them. For Ghost, has been phenomenal throughout a lot of this, and historically has had some of the faster games that we've been able to see, sometimes ending in less than 25 minutes, whereas SSG does like to play a little more slow, methodical. And so I think whoever can really get a grip of this early game is going to dictate a lot for us.
Look at these early bans here from Spacestation, Umoja and Hercules, both in the top 3 bans against Ghost, and both because of Polar Bear Mike. Now, Umoja you ban against just about everyone, but this Hercules is something that he and Aurora elevate pretty uniquely to that higher level where you absolutely got to take it out of there. The Hera being banned along with the Aphrodite in the other direction, those are the Dardas bans that you can't afford to let through, or he will just take over a game. So a lot of good stuff still available and being let through. The aforementioned Tsukiyomi, Ram has been a really popular top pick. I don't think we've seen much Cthulhu, but he's still out there too.
And it's weird because I feel like we've seen both of these solo laners pick Cthulhu. We've seen a lot of people who have been successful with him, but not really lately. No one's been looking at him too much, though. It might just fall off to the wayside. Nemesis still available, though, as well. So if he gets picked up, watch to see where she goes afterward. The thing that maybe catches me off guard the most, you know, you mentioned Ram, who has been the top pick for the most part in the last few weeks. getting thrown to the wayside for the Habwa, and it's just because, man, good in mid if you want to give him to Twig, good in the jungle if you want to give him to Sam, good to get away from Cherio at the same time. I feel like it's just a triple-edged pick that comes through, right? It gives you so much benefit if you're Ghost here, but it is always that question of what you're giving up just to grab that.
And I think this has been Twig's best god here in Phase 2, so if Ghosts are prioritizing it for him right away, then I don't have a problem with that at all, especially because the same versatility you mentioned for Ghost is true for SSG, right? Dardes or Cherio could both also play it really well, so I think this makes sense as a top pick. Rom and Kuzenbo in response, though, is a bit scary. Rom, as you already covered, the top hunter out there now, probably neck and neck with Cupid, and Kuzenbo very quickly rising up in value. I think getting a lot of value out of the disruption, the push is good early damage. You can get him through some minions as well. This Kuzenbo is hard to deal with.
I think SSG, very early adopters of Kuzenbo and able to make him look good. Ghost is one of those teams that maybe we're just a little behind in terms of picking it up, but at the same time, it feels good if you get PBM on it, right? Like, it's such a ridiculous amount of control that you can have in the dual lane. You put that with a ROM, forget about it. Like, you have no reason to be losing early pressure, even with a Cupid on the other side, even having the enhanced clear that he's gotten in that last buff that he got a few weeks ago, or however long ago that was. It really does not mean to me that you are going to be balanced over there for Ghost. They need something aggressive for their support. Otherwise, I think Kuzenbo ROM is just going to be able to push them down for a little while.
It certainly could. Ghosts will keep that in the back of their mind, but not just yet. They go through their first 3 picks without picking their support. Mike might have to endure a couple of bans coming his way, possibly Fine as well. As Spacestation go ahead and take the Sun Wukong for themselves. This has become much more popular lately, and for good reason. Sun Wukong, I believe, yesterday went undefeated, at least in that first set we watched, so certainly a strong god in his own right. And exactly, SSG are going to take this opportunity to try and ban some of Fine OK's gods. No King Arthur going to be allowed for the Ghost solo lane.
It's that funny conversation I think they have to have where they're like, guys, we already put Hercules Umoja, like, how many more bans can we commit that are specifically going towards support? And that Cerberus is one that you typically would think, especially where we've seen him, and yesterday where he had some success over there in the solo lane, but honestly, I think we've seen that run in both sections there for Ghost Gaming, so I think the options to be able to kind of flex that around is just a good target ban for SSG. But I really like what Ghosts do, maybe a little bit more. Get rid of Morrigan, 3 bans towards the mid laner. Makes sense with what we've seen out of SSG, but also just slowing down that Kali is something that SSG love to go for, even if it means that it's going to be a longer game. They absolutely love picking it up. Sometimes even if it isn't successful, they'll grab it. Either way, I think that's just going to be a good ban, but we saw a lot of highlights there on the Raven. I think it's going to be just as well for Cherio there.
Wow, you're right. We did just get through seeing some Robin highlights, but the Amir being hovered by Ghost. Now, this has been something of an inbound special here lately, and only just recently, like literally yesterday, have I seen him have any success on it. Yeah. And now Ghost are pulling it out all of a sudden. And it makes some sense here, right? Rom could certainly get trapped in by a good wall, Kuzenbo as well. Robin and Wukong with their ults don't have to worry about it so much, but still, Amir's one of those gods where whether it's quickly for you or quickly for them, this game's gonna be over quickly.
Well, yeah, I think going into yesterday, he had a 9% win rate there for Ymir. It's 23% now, so he's definitely been doing better. But to make matters even worse, I think that 9% was a Renegades game. I don't even know if it was an Obey game in the way back when. It's just, he wasn't doing too well throughout a lot of it. I think now being able to pick it up. But 2 picks, I mean, Chang'e at least feels a little more likely for SSG. The Nike is kind of blowing me out of the water because I feel like she's just been so easy to counter lately. I don't know. I really like what SSG have here, and I think that what they're bringing is not only consistent for them, but it's something that we've seen them find success on throughout all of these picks. Chang'e is still a wild card, but hey, you've got anti-heal. Your ult is insane if they stack up, and let's face it, they're going to be stacking up. A lot of these players on Ghost are going to be close range. I mean, Nike, Ymir, the Thor, and the Habwa all have to be relatively close, so if you can line them up for your ult, that's an easy 4-man stun in some cases, and I'm excited to see what they can pull out with it.
Yeah, I don't even know how much I'd complain if that gets used to solo at a Hebo and just take him out of a fight where he has a chance to one-shot someone else. I think this Chang'e gets some great value. I'm a huge Chang'e stan myself and can absolutely trust wherever this ends up. I mean, it's going to be for Dardes in mid, right? We got the Wukong, the Kuzenbo, so Chang'e mid here this time. Certainly a bit of an odd pick, but it sounds like you're leaning towards Space Station, Gore.
I mean, you want to talk about survivability? Like, this just kind of clicked. Sun Wukong, we always talk about how easy it is for him to get away. Go watch yesterday where you see Ducky run literally across the entire map without dying there. Granted, he was running from Jess to Hercules, so maybe that has something to do with it, but still, great at surviving in that. Kuzenbo, really good disengage. Rom is maybe the most susceptible on this team, but Ravin and Chang'e both have abilities that make them immune. It's going to be even easier for them to maybe dodge out the Ymir, the Nike. I really like that SSG pick these up just because they're going to be so difficult, I think, for anybody on Ghost to find and lock down efficiently. It also opens them up to maybe some other relic choices, and I'd love to see if they play around with that flexibility as we go through the game.
Certainly going to be interesting. Ghost and Space Station, two of the very best who got in the SPL, about to battle it out.
That's right, it's Dolson and Mifflin on the mic, and Doug will be working the camera for us. Mifflin, we had back-to-back 3-game sets yesterday, 2 big upsets with Obey and E United taking down teams both in the top 4. Now the other 2 teams in the top 4 in action playing one another. What a way to kick off this Saturday in the SPL. Ghost up against SSG, a massive set and one that I cannot wait to get into.
Look, there's no way, Dave. There's literally no shot that Hindu Man writes in 3 back-to-back 3-game sets. So whoever wins game 1 here, I'm taking all the way for the complete set W. But with the game as it is right now, with Ghost Gaming coming in with this draft, it's looking incredibly strong. I think Gore already pointed it out that Final K on this Nike might be the biggest question mark, just because we've seen now what Sunder's able to do to this god, or even if they decide to go for Ankh, that could eliminate a ton of the shield as well. But I think that Ghost Gaming came in with a strategy here, and it is certainly going to work out in their favor with this Ymir pick, just because of how many gods on Space Station's side are going to have to be forced into using their ultimate to escape the wall, or just buying a Phantom.
That's true. There's a lot of lockdown with Ghost Gaming and a lot of disengage from SSG. You'll need a little extra here. Already in the long lane, PBM has used his blink to half-health boat. And if nothing else, that's just going to get the wave pushing in their favor. Captain Twig has reached level 2 first as well. Finds a good bit of chunk damage onto Dardes. Luckily, the Chang'e will be able to sustain up somewhat nicely there in lane. And I think that's maybe a good conversation point there, Mifflin. We might be able to return to it after seeing what Ghost want to do around this red buff. Cheerio exchanges a blink right on in. He goes, the double tap from Sam off to the side, but Captain Twig with the water hands finds first blood. Cheerio right back for the answer, and it's 1-for-1 trade, a minute and 15 in.
Hey, Ghost comes out ahead there every single day of the week, picking up first blood for themselves. Twig, gonna miss out on a little bit of the wave, but gets a ton of gold in his pocket just anyway. And that's the start that you want if you're on Ghost Gaming. Make sure that Twig gets off to a strong one, because he's already gonna struggle into SSG's draft, right? Gore already highlighted that the immunity coming out from this Robin, from the Chang'e as well, is gonna make it very hard into Ymir, or even Thor to find the engage. Anvil of Dawn should be easily immuned out. But Crushing Wave is a very telegraphed ability. If Twig is walking at you, you can very accurately assume that he's going to look for the water spout, or likely immediately into the Crushing Wave. He's going to have to be very choosy about when he wants to use his ultimate. He might have to just wait for some CC to set it up for him, just because Cheerio and Dardes are going to be so safe on these picks.
And Captain Twig, we mentioned how important that first blood is. It's over to Captain Twig on that Hebo, so get some of that late game damage up and rolling early on here. Ghost Gaming definitely happy with the early trade that they've found here. Interesting, though, and something I was sort of mentioning before that small mid-lane skirmish, is Mike on the Ymir. It's something we've seen, but I agree with Finch in that maybe just because of yesterday, it's maybe some recency bias, but it's been sort of an inbound special. Maybe this guy does have a spot in the SPO, and obviously found some value yesterday.
I mean, Mike is the dude who loves high-risk, high-return picks. I mean, we could say Ymir's high-risk mid-return possibly, but he's just got such a good aggressive top end that it fits PBM's playstyle perfectly.
I like this invade onto the purple buff from Ghost, but the answer back is here. Dardes is rotating over from the mid lane. No Waxing Moon to lock down Mike, but you might not need it. Rapper shoves him against the wall in the second kill of the game for SSG, and that one's simple, Mifflin. That's just a rotation from the mid lane.
Just a little bit of over-aggression from Ghost, not quite ready to deal with the rotation from Chang'e. With her passive,
into it. Thanks for sticking with us, everybody. Luckily, not much, if anything at all, was missed here. We're right back with Captain Twig. Cheerio makes his way over to the mid lane. And Mifflin, just before that quick pause, we were talking about how SSG was able to slow down a lot of maybe what we're seeing here, the aggression in the long lane. Mike and Panda Cat just sort of walk towards Vote. The Nene Cap, I think, maybe blocked one of the final autos there. The dodge roll away, and Vote,
He's out?
looks like he might stay alive. The freeze is there. PBM has to use the blink. A little bit too close for comfort, maybe. But Ghost Gaming grabbed the kill nonetheless.
A blink for a kill. It might not have been ideal, especially considering that one Nene Kappa did block the auto, but it's a good trade in general. Ghost Gaming getting ahead with it now, and they've also pulled themselves a slight gold lead. But I imagine we see Ymir start to rotate out of this lane, allow Panda Cat to get that 1v1 up against Boat, and we get back to that really nice Cupid versus Rama mirror where it's just going to be ultimate trades until we see some junglers rotate in. But Sam for Soccer keeping the pace up.
Down he goes on to Dardez, immediately beads used, stun, does not connect Waxing Moon used to slow down Sam on the re-engage, and that's exactly what we want to see from these Thors. And this is not even just a Sam conversation, just Thor in general, is finding maximum usage, I suppose, of that Anvil of Dawn here in the early game. And burning off those beads, I mean, CC immunity potential for sure on the Chang'e, but getting those beads off, one less bit of utility for Dardez to answer, maybe return ganks with in the future.
But it's interesting that Dardez elected to use the beads instead of just going ahead and using the Moonlight Dance, to avoid out that stun. You could have held on to that longer relic usage. Maybe he was worried about the wall and the hammer on the tail end of it, knowing that he's going to need it there. But if you're willing to trade out your ultimate as well, I think you could have got a little bit more value out of Chang'e's kit there. Maybe a little bit slow on the reaction time. But even then, he's still going to have that added benefit, that safety net of the Moonlight Waltz, making sure that he doesn't get hit by Thor ults in the future. Even with those beads down, he's going to be relatively safe.
Cherio's going to make his way over to the solo lane. Fine-OK simply just has to pop the ultimate, and that'll really slow down anything Cherio and Nika are going to look to continue doing here. So, ultimate used by Fine-OK. Blink, though, exchanged in from Cherio. Cherio maybe fishing to try to catch up just a little bit with Sam. Levels are even, but net worth starting to grow just a little bit. About 200 gold in the lead is Sam up to this point. So both junglers making early attempts at ganks, and pretty much what we expect, I think, Mifflin, with a Robin and a Thor in a matchup.
Yeah, Cherio's job wholeheartedly is just to make sure that SSG as a whole is able to stay afloat against Ghost's pressure. But take a peek at Fine-OK's build. He's already elected to pick up the Talaria boots, which is essentially going to cede pressure in the lane against the Sun Wukong. It seems like Fine-OK is really playing for that rotation out of lane, maybe some early gold Furies to play around the strength of Ghost's duo lane. But it's going to lose out on a lot of damage potential, survivability. He's going to be struggling.
Oh man, Nika rotates over from solo. Woo! Crushing wave, not enough to disengage. Twig, down he goes. It's a stun with the follow-up damage from Mike and Sam. But the job is done now for SSG. What a rotation there from Nika. The Sun Wukong simply rotates up, grabs the stun, grabs the kill, and now Captain Twig falling slightly behind a Dardez.
And Nika didn't miss out on any waves there. He was able to proxy out one before the rotation, meaning that he's not going to lose out on anything. He's going to be able to walk back to lane and farm up pretty efficiently. But it seems like, again, Fine-OK is playing very selfish with his farm, immediately going to his own team's back camp, splitting it out with Sam for Soccer, and then returning to lane there. This Nike's really playing around the passive, making sure that it comes online early so they can rotate into the team fights and be that disruption factor. Whereas Nika, going for the Warrior Tabi immediately into the Soul Eater, has hit his power spike much earlier on. I expect SSG's Soul Laner is going to try and get involved a lot more constantly.
That's what Nika does exactly here, just a few minutes in. Fine-OK, we know you could do some good damage here in lane. I think this is an important game, sort of maybe for Nike in general. I mean, obviously Amaterasu, now the Sun Wukong, the likes of them over there in the solo lane have been the favorites. Have not seen Nike. There was sort of a steep drop-off in the Nike picks out of that solo lane, so maybe interesting that Fine-OK still finds some confidence in that pick, though maybe if you're looking at what Ghost are trying to draft, that backline dive and disruption sort of fits that mold perfectly.
And it is likely going to be able to force out a relic purchase from SSG. Maybe the Kuzumbo elects to pick up the Sunder just to counteract Fine-OK's ultimate, which would strip him of getting the Thorns, which would be the best active that can really work with Kuzumbo's build, or abilities rather.
Oh man, Rapper takes a good chunk of damage here. This has been Ghost Gaming's MO, and fade in on these red buffs. Now's to blink forward. PBM taken low. His own wall is going to lock him in there. Down goes Sam. No stun here. Cherio instead has found the kill. Bandit Cat off to the left-hand side has finished off the kill onto the Guzenbo, but Fine OK is here, and so is Sam, as the Robin will take a tumble. Fine OK is going to try to chase down Dardez, but not much more to be found there. Nika is going to be shot into the corner, will take into the ultimate, and make himself out alive. Ghost Gaming find a 2-for-1 trade.
2 for 1, but that's really good for Ghost, especially considering the positioning that they took around that red buff. Captain Twig was left high and dry the second that Polar Bear Mike was forced to walk out. They all, SSG, turn around, shut down that Hebo. Captain Twig forced to use the ultimate aggressively towards the right side of the jungle, which separates him even further from the team. But PBM sticks around, forces out a couple more abilities, and uses his blink defensively to keep his life. I mean, that's just smart play, and he's playing with fire, considering he's at 10% health just that entire time. SSG, with their shot calling and their decision-making on targets, wasn't quite able to pick up that kill on the PBM. Unfortunate for them, but taking down Twig, it's nothing you can complain about.
Yeah, Twig is 3 out of the 4 kills here so far for Space Station Gaming, so slowing down the Hebo after First Blood was the name of the game. And they've at least been able to do that up to some standpoint. The Doom Orb is going to be good, though, for maybe allowing Twig a little extra rotation speed, finding some damage now in some of these fights. It is a 1-level lead for Dardez in the mid, but Myth, maybe the most pressing point of concern is that Sam for Soccer has pulled 2 levels, now 1, maybe 1.5 levels of Cherio over in the SSG jungle.
It's tough, but with both of them playing more early game slanted junglers, it's not really that big of a difference in terms of XP. The value that you're going to get from a level 10 Robin is already going to be a little bit outscaled just by the global ultimate that Thor has, but the damage output and ability to make your presence known on the map should be relatively even. One fight could turn it around completely, but Sam's going to have to keep this pace up.
Look at this 3-man roam. Vote able to roll away from the freeze of Mike that likely would have spelled death, though Beads on the other end could have helped Vote stay alive. Nika is now going to find a chance. Small invade here on the right-hand side. Pull himself about 1 level ahead of Fine OK there. But Fine OK will answer in kind, maybe realizing that both junglers are on the opposite side of the map. The solo laners are going to strip farm from the enemy's jungle on the backside.
That's exactly how that lane's going to go. When neither one of you has really any kill potential against the other, solo lane becomes more about this war of attrition where you can poke out the enemy laner or potentially try and proxy a couple waves, strip away as much jungle as you can, and then find rotation paths in the mid. Right now, SSG is coming out a little bit ahead. Fine OK does strip away the map, but he doesn't clear out his own waves, so his tower's going to take some poke.
What do you think about this mystical mail for Fine OK? Maybe it's obvious to what he's trying to do, and it's a little bit of this. Just stand on the back line of the SSG composition. I'm just waiting to see maybe what Space Station are looking for there. Not much more on the end of it. Nika took about half of his HP, forced into the ultimate. But now the up-down from Fine OK. It's a blue buff invade, and it looked like Ghost were actually able to lock this one down. Cherio is going to take over half of his HP in damage. And Fine OK now is going to just back himself off. Maybe the mystical mail is doing its work there. A little extra damage off the top.
And now Ghost threatening objectives on both sides. That mystical mail, to me, it just tells me that Fine OK is looking to make sure that no one on SSG is allowed to use their blinks. He wants to stand near the back line and get that constant tick damage and just completely target out Nika, Cherio, and Rapper. Gonna have a much harder time engaging as long as Fine OK is standing between them and his own back line. So it's a very smart pickup in its own right. With Ghost picking up the Pyromancer as well, that neutral objective on the solo side, it means that there's really going to be no presence from the jungler over there in the short lane, at least I imagine so. Now we're really going to get to the point of the game, 12 minutes in, where both teams are going to be vying for this Gold Fury.
A small ward coverage for Ghost Gaming, just a couple wards on the back end of the SSG jungler, or jungle rather, over there. Sam for Soccer, unfortunate standpoint, right on a ward for SSG, and now we'll walk over another, so this Thor will not be surprising anyone now. Space Station Gaming likely know exactly where he is. Mid lane tier 1 tower has taken a decent amount of damage. Ghost Gaming has been able to plug away a lot of that. Sam for Soccer forced to move his way away. So ultimate used there by Dardez, but no kill to be found.
With Twig, and Sam forced to back, maybe SSG look to try and pressure out the middle of the map, maybe finish off that tower just a little bit, or even move in towards the Gold Fury. But instead, it seems like they're going to go back to farming. As this game goes on, it's hard to say which team I would favor going into the team fight phase. Ghost Gaming obviously has one-shot potential and ranged engage. Sam for Soccer can easily turn a game with his ultimate, but the same can be said of Twig. Whereas Dardez's ultimate is going to take a lot more execution. You really only get value out of Chang'e when you hit those fatty collats. You want 2-3 members to really get that stun rolling up. It's going to be tough for him to really line them up. And I think that Final K is going to be a huge question mark going forward. How much value is this Sentinel Zeus going to get in a team fight? It's yet to be seen.
Right, and you know, normally when we see these solo laners build into more of that move speed, Final K attempting another blue buff invade, this one won't go his way. Sort of immediately into the Relic Dagger, some more of those move speed items. The Mystical Mail sort of separating some of that move speed, but then the Relic Dagger will keep that Blink and those Thorns up a little bit more often. Mike sensing maybe there's a kill to be had here onto Rapper. He'll use his Blink in, finds the stun. Really, Mifflin only buys his space for the Oracles, and now maybe actually a Gold Fury pull. Fine, okay. Looking out a bit of damage onto Cherio. Half HP on the Gold Fury. Rapper close by. Knock up, and Ghost Gaming will be able to take the Gold Fury for free.
What a slow rotation from SSG there. Rapper was there the
that way,
entire time. He saw it from beginning to end. They forced off the blink from PBM as well, meaning that the engage potential from Ghost would have been much lower. PBM has to commit himself only to peeling off the objective, but he didn't have to. No one was in range to move in. Dardes got caught off in mid, trying to walk up in. Cherio wasn't in range either. Ghost Gaming choose their fight properly, and now they've taken away both neutral objectives on the map. Now we're going to see a return to just farming the lanes, looking for picks throughout the jungle, but throughout this phase, Ghost Gaming's pulled a pretty sizable lead.
That's right, and it's not the steamroll you from minute one type of lead. It's the find these early picks, force out these objectives, and take them for ourselves that we've started to see here. That's built up 2,000-3,000 gold in the advantage. Fight in the mid lane. Dardes taken low, deleted by Captain Twig. Free kill there unless Cherio trades one back. Looks like he'll at least be able to do so. Captain Twig, though, receiving a little bit of healing here and the water carpet, but Vote is there to finish off some of the damage. So Captain Twig ends up going down, but he snagged himself a kill of his own as well.
If Vote doesn't rotate there, Twig's out. That water
Yeah,
carpet
it'll be free.
completely cuts off the rotation path. Rapper wouldn't be able to chase down because he had to use his dash to get in range for the Nene. Cherio already uses his second ability, so he doesn't have the immunity either. So that's a heads-up rotation from Vote, making sure that it does turn into a one-for-one trade. But Twig, despite having constant pressure on him, despite falling 4 times in 15 minutes, has established himself a 1-level lead, and his build is coming online incredibly quickly. Already Soul Gem and Doom Orb on this Hebo. This man is going to be swinging.
That's right, especially given the fact that he's now died 4 out of 5 times of SSG's kills, so maybe every reason to expect this Hebo would be behind in some capacity, but it's the exact opposite. Top of the net worth charts. It's about 1.2k gold ahead of Dardes here up to this point. Definitely something you have to be a little bit concerned about if you're SSG. Vote. He's going to telegraph his way right back into an ultimate from PBM. Maybe detonated a little bit too early there. The freeze on the back end, the roll away will keep Vote alive here. Dardes is going to rotate through. Thorns doing some good damage, but this is 3 against 1. But maybe Mike has baited in SSG. A double stun from Sam. Bandicat finds the kill, and Sam gets one of his own. A 2-for-1 trade after SSG thought they had found a free one.
Yeah, PBM drops the ultimate just a little bit too early on, mistimes that detonation, then the rotation in from the mid laner, from Sam for Soccer, and Sam plays that fight immaculately, finds the dunk onto Chang'e, finds the wall on the tail onto Natu for that raw double hammer as they try and slip away as well. This guy's playing incredibly well on the Thor, and he's completely outpacing Cherry. This Robin, who was supposed to be that early game Leviathan, has been completely outpaced. Now he's got a 2-level lead in the jungle. We're starting to move into that point where Thor isn't quite starting to fall off, but this Robin is. And now Captain Twig's going to start hitting his pace as well out of the mid lane. SSG kind of a hard time clawing back this lead.
Absolutely difficult. Beads and CC immunity is going to be key, and that's something we saw yesterday. You know, even in a loss, adapting kind of comes to mind. Some massive team fight dunks there later on throughout some of those sets on this Thor specifically. Vote is going to roll away from this one, maybe stay alive. Actually, Ghosts are going to look for a little extra. It's Fields of Love down onto Vote. No ultimate to keep him alive. This time, when you got Captain Twig in your corner, you're probably happy to take these fights. Woo! Crushing Wave rolls through. Suddenly, Ghost have a couple. Cheerios able to answer back with one. But the slow rotation suddenly becomes a lot faster.
He doesn't miss.
For Soccer makes it 3.
Man, he just goes in with the ultimate and finds the dunk. Now Rapper caught between a rock and a hard place. The wall falls, but another one comes up in its place, and he loses his life. What a clean play from Ghost.
That is massive, Mifflin. That is a 4-for-1 swing now for Ghost Gaming. A 4k gold differential as we stand. Every tower except mid lane tier 1 can be taken down. I think Nika is doing about all he can do here at this point. Luckily, Final K is answering back the proxy with one of his own. But Ghost Gaming are effectively alone on the map. They're going to balloon this gold lead a little bit more by taking down some extra towers.
I gotta highlight it, man. I gotta talk about that Sam for Soccer play. I know what they're gonna say, Mifflin's a jungle stan, but he goes in with the ultimate, connects with Cherio, drops the hammer, realizes that Cherry has already used his bead, so if Sam for Soccer decides to use his wall there's no way he finds the double tap with that beads coming through. So instead of playing it on autopilot, he withstands or withholds from using it, finds the double tap, perfectly teleports in to finish off that kill, forcing not only the relic usage from the Robin, but also picking up the kill as well. Just fantastic play.
And, you know, I think Captain Twig has really done his job here as well. It's the crushing wave to just delete as much health as he possibly can. You know, he's not skyrocketing up the damage charts or anything like that, but I think the setup or knockdown potential has been a lot in part due to Sam as well. Rapper's going to move forward, try to contest his Primal Fury here. He's going to use his ultimate, but somehow this Kuzumbo is looking quite squishy here. It's level 13 to 15 of PBM. Sam and Panda looking like they're going to finish off the Primal Fury here. SSG, they want to answer back, but not able to do so quick enough. Nico looks for the stun onto Mike, but watch out. Fine, okay. He's around the back line. SSG, you might be too grouped up. There's a big double stun. Sentinel of Zeus is going to force vote up into the sky. Rapper in the fields of love, and Fine, okay, grabs the kill. Twig rolls through the left side of the fight, but there's the up down. Sam for Soccer with one, Panda another. Now it's 2 for SSG on the run, and Darda's the last to fall. Ghost Gaming grab the deicide 20 minutes in.
It's just, again, SSG playing a little bit slow around the rotations of this Gold Fury. Poor Rapper twice now has been put in a position where he has to defend 1 versus 4, 1 versus 5, and he was able to peel off the entirety of Ghost Gaming from the gold, find the reset, but by the time SSG rotates in, Rapper's already traded out 50% of his health. PBM's able to reposition himself towards the top end of that fight, and the walls coming out from Ghost Draft, not just PBM, but Twig as well, have been completely separating the entirety of SSG's team fight. And now Fire Giant, only one person alive, it's Rapper. He wasn't able to defend it on gold. It seems like he's not even going to try on the Fire.
Yeah, I'm not sure you can. No way Rapper walks face first into this one. Ghost Gaming have blown this game absolutely wide open. And there's been largely no answer from SSG. All of the kills except 2 are onto Captain Twig. Mike has died twice. Everyone else has been undying. The setup from Ghost Gaming has just been too consistent, and I think that's something the desk and maybe even we were a little bit concerned about here, is the sudden dive, the potential to get into the front line and back line of Spacestation Gaming was just a little bit too scary, large part thanks to this man. Nika maybe should be a little bit nervous here. Of course, Sam for Soccer is going to hit that one. Somersault Cloud will connect this time around, but Mike and Sam are going to split the uprights here, maybe decide where Nika's going to go. You're always going to go towards the Ymir, but Fine okay lurking around to the other side. Nika, at this point, just needs to buy some time.
Look, I don't think there's a scenario where Nika makes it out of there alive, considering Fine OK rotates top side and was able to cut off that rotation path. But going into the cap form, almost certainly a misclick, immediately stops himself on a minion, making it that much more easy for him to pick up that kill. But SSG are doing a good job splitting the map, making sure that Ghost Gaming have to respond to it. With a 4-man group on the left side, it means that Ghost is going to have to slow down their own push just a little bit as they're split up on the map. Buys a ton of time. Now Nika's only 30 seconds left on the respawn, and Ghost hasn't grouped up on a tower yet. This Fire Giant push finally starting to pay off as they pick up this tier 2 on the right-hand side of the map. This is looking tough, man. This gold lead is ballooning.
Yeah, it's massive now for Ghost Gaming. We're around that 12,000 gold mark. The sudden swing of these games is definitely some of the pressure that Ghost Gaming can bring, and now you've got 2.5 minutes left on this Fire Giant push. Everyone's got the buff still. Nika's still dead for 3 or so seconds. I'm not sure you even bother with any of these tier 2s here if you're Space Station Gaming. They seem to agree with me here. They'll back themselves off and hope Mifflin out their Phoenix lane defense looks any better than what we've seen from the rest of the map.
They can hope. It's incredibly hard. They don't have a standard mage inside of their draft. The best that they have to clear out waves is going to be Vote, likely, trying to use the Astral Arrows, because Chang'e has to commit her body. Her abilities are a little bit shorter range than a standard mage, so if she moves up, she's going to have to deal with a ton of CC. No jump means that a singular wall can separate her from the team. Darda is going to have to play nearly perfect, but there is a silver lining for SSG. Once we get to the siege phase, the game simplifies a little bit. If Ghost decide to, and I think they will, group up as 5 and try and leverage the fact that they're looking at a nearly 14,000 gold lead in their favor, it's going to make it that much easier for Dardes to find a big waxing moon, try and stun out at least 2 or 3 members, and then we can see how well SSG is able to respond. Their team comp is much better at diving outside of their own Phoenix rather than taking the fight inside of it, which could be a double-edged sword. Again, that Phoenix isn't an unofficial 6-man, but the siege potential from Ghost is so high. Captain Twig's damage, Panic Hat's ability to create a no-play zone with Fields of Love. It's going to take a lot for SSG to withstand the initial push. They might have to withstand 2 before they can take a fight.
I mean, this is maybe even been written in the wall from early on here. Sanford Soccer, I think, has just outpaced Cherio throughout the onset of this game. More consistent on the store from the answer back. It's been a lot of responses from Cherio, but the initial questions have been raised by Sanford Soccer. Dardes just wide with the ultimate here. PBM answers with one of his own. Up, down for Fine OK. Finds the backline. Vote up to the sky. Sentinel of Zeus. Sanford Soccer won't grab the stun this time onto Dardes, but look at the cleave damage on the backline. You might lose your Thor, and SSG unable to finish off the kill here. Nika is going to try to get it done himself. He's at least able to do so, but Ghost Gaming, they're going to storm the gates left side Phoenix down, and that's all they're searching for here.
There's nothing there to respect. The only ultimate available from SSG is Cheerios right now. If he's able to connect it onto Hebo in the back, he might be able to stop this push, but this Phoenix is likely going down for free. Dardes needs to get that ult up as soon as possible.
Spacestation Gaming, you need to be careful here about pushing out too far forward. They won't do so. Fire Giant buff now falls off. I mean, that must have been 4 towers and 2 Phoenixes. Ghost Gaming with a chokehold on this match. And with 45 seconds left, Mifflin, they can now take this Oni Fury, get those Fire Oni minions on the opposite side of the map from where Spacestation Gaming are going to want to be contesting this Fire Giant. This is Ghost to lose 99% of the time. Spacestation Gaming might have to hope for a miracle FG steal or something of the like.
A miracle FG steal into 3 pentakills was what SSG needs. We're talking about 18,000 gold separating these two teams 25 minutes in. XP favors Ghost Gaming. It's not that bad. You only hit level 20 once, and the majority of SSG is approaching that point. I think the lowest level being level 17 on the Kuzenbo, but take a peek at their builds. SSG hasn't even finished up that 5th item, whereas Ghost Gaming is approaching that true 6-item slot. And with Fire Giant spawning now, I don't think SSG has the numbers, the items, the abilities, the levels. I don't think they can step up to this Fire Giant at all. But it seems like they're willing to do it. One more Fire Giant could spell the end of this game. Maybe SSG goes for a Hail Mary play.
It's maybe all you've got. Get your exclamation point Hail Marys ready in chat, because that's what SSG is hoping for here out of Ghost Gaming. Too consistent, though, as Ghost. I'm not sure they're the team that's going to let a lead like this slip away. Rapper, I'm not sure what he's doing here in the backline. He's found Captain Twig, but done almost no damage with his ultimate. Fields of Love is going to slow down any re-engagement. Rapper does get the push back, but it's on to PBM. That's not who you want into the rest of your team. Nika, up, down, goes Sanford Soccer. Captain Twig is going to grab the kill there. Fine OK, controlling Dardes, controlling Vote here. Rapper is somehow going to stay alive, but the rest of the team answered his call. He needs to be the one in the fight, and look at this Nike Mifflin absolutely decimating the right-hand side.
Yeah, that's a GG, and Dardes knows it. Just lets go of his keyboard, walks away. He's getting some water, consulting with the coach. What went wrong? Because it is going to go to a game 2. Ghost Gaming commanding with this W. Yeah, walk past the Phoenix, boys. This is a victory lap, and it seems like the minions might beat you to it.
Yeah, the Fire Onion minions are going to get it done anyway. Those things absolutely did work on the Titan. 26 minutes from Ghost Gaming. And this is perfect timing, I think, for all this Mifflin if you're a Ghost player or a Ghost fan. Obviously, they got the 2-0 win over PK the last time we saw them, but remember, the 2-0 loss to Renegades was just before that. It was never a team, I think, that anyone lost all that much confidence in, but we didn't know where the headspace maybe was, so lots of confidence to be instilled in the Ghost team and the Ghost fans after Game 1 at least. And keep in mind, Ghost Gaming didn't get off to that signature start. They went for a couple of invades, got repulsed. I mean, every single time, I thought we were looking at a 3-1 KD in favor of SSG as Ghost was trying to get aggressive in the jungle, but it didn't stop the momentum. They didn't stop looking for it, and eventually they were able to break their way through SSG's armor. Well played. Ghost Gaming looked like they're in top form. Yeah, it seemed like Rapper sat on Twig and Sam sat on everyone else from SSG. Ghost Gaming look like they're back to form, as you put it there, Mifflin. Game number 1, it's a quick one that goes the way of Ghost Gaming. Game number 2, right after this break.
Welcome back to the SPL after that quick break, which no one is going to need more than Space Station Gaming after a brutal Game 1 loss that I thought fundamentally was over around 17 minutes in when they started developing 3-level leads in almost every lane. I still have Gore here with me on the desk as well, and Gore, this one got out of control in a hurry, didn't it? It felt like SSG were with them for the first 10, 12 minutes or so, but eventually the Chang'e fell behind, Panda Cat came online, and this game was out of control.
There was one fight, me and you were talking about it while we were watching, where we were just like, man, Ghost went into that, said, wait, we lose this, and then just decided they didn't. Like, Sam decided to re-aggress into the fight, and that one almost felt like the linchpin in my mind, where they did just kind of, like, they had Space Station Gaming, they lifted them up, and then they just Batman slammed them down onto their knee. They knew what they were doing there. They made sure to shut them down. And, Ghost go with what I would argue is maybe their typical MO, like, Twig ends up being the one who ends up, dying a majority of the time, but it doesn't matter. He got all his damage off before it happened, and it sets up someone like Sam or Panda Cat to either clean up whatever was left, or in the case of Sam, set it up so that Twig can then get all that damage done, then Sam will take over whatever's left, so they can just find that trade. PBM had great walls, again showcasing I think why Ymir can be important, and then that's just dirty. I mean, that one, jungle. That is just, the jungle was so strong there for Ghost.
Oh no, Sam Diff, we just saw it happening right there in front of our eyes. Maybe censor it next time or something. My goodness, this guy does whatever it is he feels like at any given moment. If he is in the map, it is harder for you to lose automatically. Thanks, Gore. I appreciate having the backup on that one. But you're absolutely right, man. This is why we think Thor is so strong. I didn't understand people were picking Ymir. Inbound looked good yesterday. Mike had some insane walls in this game as well. And what really felt off here from Space Station this time was that around the mid-game, it didn't seem to me like they knew how they wanted to start these fights, or rather, that Ghost was starting them on their own terms. Dardes had decent damage, but struggled here on the Chang'e. They're going to go back to the drawing board for sure.
Yeah, it also felt like they didn't know how they wanted to handle what Ghost Gaming brought into it. I mean, we talked about it before. Like, Nike confused me because it was like, yeah, Sunder, then Fine OK is just... Like, the slow is still oppressive, but you can handle that. There's a Cupid on the other side, so I'm thinking, man, Heavenly Agility seems pretty good here. And they end up getting none of those, so I'm just kind of wondering if, they had these built-in counters available to them that they just never ended up going. I'm wondering where maybe some of the disconnect were, or maybe they thought they could handle it without it, in which case, why they weren't able to maybe make that adjustment in-game. Unfortunately, it just all falls apart. There's a certain point where maybe they could have made that adjustment, but Ghost was just so far ahead that they're literally nothing you could do would actually change it. So I think they just kind of found themselves in this, man, this is uncomfortable and awkward position to try and continue pushing forward.
It was difficult here for Space Station, but the crazy thing is I liked their draft going into that game, so I don't even know what my advice would be coming into the picks and bans for game number 2 now, as they've got to figure something out, or Ghost is going to run away with it in less than 55 minutes of total game time, or something crazy like that. SSG are in the first pick spot this time. That is one difference that maybe they could use to help, but, I mean, I like Sun Wukong, I like Kuzenbo, I like Rom. They had a ton of good picks.
Yeah, everything on their draft was solid, and honestly, so this is going to be a fundamental change for them. The only thing I think they can do to beat Ghost is they have to play their game faster, right? And it's just something that it's not SSG's way. They like their games. Again, it's not necessarily long. It's just long compared to what Ghosts like to play. Ghosts are very often in a lead that seems like it's debilitating at 20 minutes, if not earlier, or maybe slightly later. Maybe 22 minutes is where they really take control. But SSG, they like their 29 to 31 minute games. That's typically where we're going to see a lot of the Pro League games in, but that's how they play it. They have that slow roll. And the only way I think you can beat Ghost in this one right now, as far as I can tell, is to speed it up. You have to keep pace with them, which is just so difficult to do. There's a reason they're one of the best at that early game stage and being able to take control of it. And it's just because of what we've seen. Their aggression, the way they bring team fights to you faster than we see from a lot of other teams. They just start playing the grouped up portion of SMITE about 10 minutes earlier than anybody else.
They certainly do. Ghosts are a problem wrapped in an enigma and then, I guess, put into a box that's shaped like a conundrum. I'm not so sure. But they're hard to stop. I wonder if this Hopwa... Oh, thanks, Corey. You've been a good audience for me. I wonder if this Hopwa going to be the first pick for SSG this time, though. I think that was a bigger difference maker than we've given credit. Because Twig should not have been in this game, right? He was like 0-5-4 at the beginning of this game. They really took him out of it. But Hopwa has so much damage, even if he's a level or two behind. And Twig's so comfortable on it that I think it made a big difference. And we know SSG can play it really well. There's still a lot of valued picks they'd be giving up, but I wonder if that might be part of that core of what Ghost had last game that would be worth stripping away. Looks like, though, they're going to stick with a lot of the same. Just go right back to this ROM.
What's crazy is going, right back to where you were kind of hiding it or highlighting it, where some similarities that we have between Hebo and Freya are existent, right? Hey, I'm 3 levels down, but I got my 4th item online, so now I can just go ahead and hit 3-1 and you're dead. If not, then you're close enough that someone around me is going to be able to finish it. And like, as much as I think Sam had a stellar game and had great showcase and PBM as well, great walls, great freezes, great setup, you have to look at the fact that Panda Cat was able to clean up a lot of those kills afterward. I mean, he was, what, like 9-0 or 7-0 and 9? Yeah. Something insane. He didn't die throughout all of it. Got a ton of assists, ton of kills there on the Cupid. And so I'm thinking that this Hebo being able to kind of be the lightning rod for the team early on, scream, hey, Cheerio, come camp my lane, kill me off, is perfect for them because it just lets everybody else escalate to that carry status. And again, it kind of goes forward, back what we were saying before, if Sam maybe has a bad game, Ghosts just don't seem to do incredibly well. They do still tend to win in a lot of these instances, but maybe not as crushingly as we've seen some of their victories. But if Twig doesn't do well, honestly, that's par for the course for them. I mean, they're fine with him going 0-5 because they know he's going to be able to turn it around and still find utility.
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost starting to wonder if maybe the inverse of what I described might have been the problem here. It's not so much that Hebo is too good even from behind, but maybe that Chang'e with a lead can't really pressure it the same way a lot of other mages can. I wonder if that's what this adjustment here from SSG is all about. They have the Hera this time, which I believe was banned away when Ghosts were in the first pick spot, and that's something that if you let Dardes get a level and a half ahead or have pressure in lane, then he'll run the game with it. I think that could be a pretty big difference maker for SSG, even on its own.
And I honestly think that it's the control, again, that comes down from it. A polymorph in the middle of a fight is going to be solid. I love Chang'e. I love her kit. I love everything about that god. She's one of my favorites to play. But there is always going to be a reason that we don't get to see her maybe as much in competitive play. Her damage, especially compared to some of the other mages, doesn't hit as hard. Her healing compared to some of the healers isn't as good, right? She has a lot of decent CC, but it kind of feels like she falls directly in the middle of everything that you want. And there's just other people who are maybe going to bring a little bit more. Hera has a polymorph, better damage. Argus might as well just be a 6th man on the field for how tanky he is and how much that can bring to you. So I really like that adjustment in the mid lane. And grabbing it sooner than the ban phase, because we've already seen a lot of the other people on SSG have a wide enough pool, and I think Dardes does as well, but it's so wide that they could eat 4 bans and still walk away. But last time, what was it? Aphrodite, Hera, Morrigan, I think there might have been another. Maybe it was only the 3, all being shots towards that mid lane. Get something that you know you're good at, lock it in, and just try to keep it early.
Well, the Amir still getting good value into these 3 picks for SSG, right? Good luck getting around the wall if you're any of those characters that they have highlighted right now. I wonder if Ghosts are considering going back to that Thor for Sam. He looked so good on it. It has not been banned or taken away here to this point, and yeah, if I'm Ghost, that's exactly what I would want. Sam dictated how this game went. I know Panda Cat had a nuts game, but it's a little bit easier when your jungler is doing all that work that Sam was able to do, so they go right back to it. So now SSG have a couple of adjustments, right? They've got the Hera now instead of the Chang'e. They've got the Sobek now instead of the Kuzenbo, and I think those can be difference makers. The Sobek CC is a bit stronger, but I just don't know if it's enough. So far, Ghosts are just running it back, and they can't even take away, well, the Cupid's taken away, but still, I think they should be able to get a good hunter over there for Panda, too.
I'm curious to see, though, because one of the things I highlighted for last game was I love the idea of Heavenly Agility, and that's just because when you look at a Fields of Love, it's the easiest way to get out of it. It just completely nullifies that slow, but there's still, between the Ymir, the Nike, and the Habwa, there's a ton of slows still there for Ghost. I'm wondering if that's something they want to do, and Finch, I have to go scratch another name off of my gods that haven't been picked this phase. I already had to take care of 3 yesterday. Guan Yu coming in. I don't know, he falls in that same category, but with Protection Shred, I actually really do like this god.
Yeah, that long-channeled CC immunity is really good for him too. Even if he is stuck on a wall, he can just go up on the horse, turn around with it if he still has it up at that time. I think Guan Yu was pretty low on the community tier list the last time we checked. I know they like to put one up on Reddit, so I'm sure they're not exactly ecstatic to see this god locked in. But if Nika is picking this, it looks like it'll be over there in solo, then I trust that they've got a strategy to make this work. I mean, how do you get away from the Guan Yu if you're Habwa? You know, you don't have a whole lot of movement options to escape. Maybe that's the idea.
And like you said, CC immune in that ult, so your carpet's not even going to slow him when you're trying to run away. I think it's a good way to close the gap, but Finch, that kind of stresses me out. That's a great way to highlight, once again, dumping on the mid laner, but you can't really do much. Like, you've done it. You did it all last game. You put as many kills into that Evo as you could, and it didn't make a difference for you. So I'm wondering if this is maybe going to help them lock down Hachiman, who does have a good disengage with his ult. Thor and Nike maybe unable to escape as consistently as some of the others. If you recognize either the hammer or the leaper on cooldown, you could probably close that gap just in time to set your team up. But it's an iffy pick. It's his first game. I'm excited to see how he can work.
A ton of CC for Space Station this time around, but Ghost the team with all the momentum. Let's see if SSG can bounce back.
It's time for SSG to get some momentum going on their side. Ghost Gaming may be sensing there's a chance for a small invade here to start off the game. 4 members of Ghost Gaming are going to walk their way over towards the SSG side of the map. It's sought out, so they'll back themselves off. Nothing to be seen here in the first few minutes, and Mifflin, effectively no changes outside of the Hachiman to the Ghost Gaming draft, whereas SSG plug in a few new pieces. Most interestingly, maybe, is this Guan Yu.
The Guan Yu is an interesting pick, man. Talu Assault has some of the best defense shred in the game. Obviously, the healing is going to be pretty impactful once we get to these gold-free fights, these dances around the Fire Giant. But SSG is going to have a lot to clean up. If they want to dance around the gold-free, if they want to dance around the Fire Giant, they're going to have to get there and make sure that it's not only Raffer trying to put up a defense. I'm worried about how well SSG is going to be able to bounce back. The mental damage from losing in 26 minutes has got to be crippling. But it seems like they've come back to their own style of draft. We got Dardas in a more standard mage mid-pick, which is weird to say when you're talking about Hera. Cherio playing the Erlang Shen. Everything's looking a lot more standard, except for this Guan Yu.
Well, Hera, if nothing else, will likely bring some survivability when dove on. Exactly how Ghost Gaming did effectively on cooldown in game number 1. More so than the Chang'e, who didn't maybe find all that much value here. But look at Panda Cat, the opening's there, and so is First Blood. What a play from Panda. A massive Game 1 performance out of the Cupid. Ticks over to level 2 at the perfect time. And now Vote takes a tumble in the wrong direction 1 minute in.
Man, and Vote loses out on his beads as well. Into this lane, that could be crippling. He's going to walk into lane at level 1. Ymir's going to have his freeze this time around. There's a double stun set up with the EI Jutsu. Panda Cat's had a quiet last couple of weeks, but he's coming out in a big way right now.
Massive now for Ghost Gaming, especially when you consider this long lane and what we know that they want to do. Vote still searching for that level 2 mark, so level 3 is going to be a big fight point for Ghost Gaming should they choose to work themselves forward. But I think putting Twig back on this Hebo, and you know, we talked about how there were 8 kills total for SSG, and 6 of them were on Captain Twig, but I think the important thing is, Biff, when you look at the Hebo, top damage in game number 1, the crushing waves, whether he died on the back end or not, he did what he needed to do, and I think it's a strong pick for Twig, so I like Ghost Gaming giving it the run back.
Man, you're starting to sound a lot like aggro, Dave. Well, as long as the mid laner gets his
ultimate
off, as long as he does his damage,
what else is he supposed to do?
I don't know, live. He doesn't have to die. I got no patience for mid laners, Dave, okay? Twig played absolutely well in game 1. I can't take it away from him. He had a ton of pressure put his way. But I don't know, maybe survive. You got Beads and Aegis and an ultimate, like, crushing wave. Don't die.
I'm not saying it's good he died 6 times. I'm saying it's good that despite him dying 6 times, he did the most damage in the game. Maybe that's what you expect, though, on the Hebo. And that's why I'm saying it's good they go back to it. So I like what Ghost Gaming are bringing yet again here into Game 2. And obviously the Hachiman has at least worked out here up to this point. A different pivot for SSG as well, putting Raffer on the Sobek instead of the Kuzenbo up to this, or here into Game 2. I think that's an interesting pivot as well. We've seen large-scale success, I think, out of the Sobek. A little bit more sticky CC, maybe, if you want to look at it that way. So Raffer now, I think, a big role to play in getting SSG back into the set.
Yeah, I think it's a good pickup as well, considering that a lot of the issues we saw coming from SSG in the last couple of team fights in Game 1 was the ability to engage, but now he can do things like this. Blink in, go for the pluck. Works better if you hit it, but it should result in the kill anyway. Twig losing out on the beads and his life. Cheerio gonna keep it rolling.
That's brutal. That's what you want from this Erlong Shen. Sanford Soccer here on his own red buff. It's now Spacestation Gaming feeling aggressive. But the red buff will be dropped down by Ghost Gaming. So 1-for-1 trade. And I think, you know, you can really identify anyone from Space Station Gaming in need of a bounce-back performance after game number 1. But I think Cheerio on that Robin, you know, found some damage, found some early kills, but the Erlong Shen didn't quite hit the value in the late game. Already early on here, it is doing so. He will find the pin after being stunned down. Panda Cat, oh, the wall from Mike, you gotta be kidding me. This guy saves his hunter's life again, and Panda Cat's gonna survive, and that's wasted Cheerio's time.
PBM just single-handedly rocketed Ymir 3 tiers up on my own personal tier list. That pluck connects, but it doesn't matter because the wall comes through between them, immediately separating the team fight. There's no beads available there. I mean, his man is just dead. Panda Cat is dead to rights if PBM isn't absolutely frame perfect on that wall. Immaculate play. This Ymir pick has been only impressive.
Yeah, you know, we knew it all along. Ymir, top of the tier list, should be the most picked god all along. I mean, look, we knew it. We've been saying it for weeks, right? I mean, that's exactly the standpoint we've had. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Obviously heavily sarcastic. We maybe didn't see the value, some of the virtue that this type of pick could bring. It was always sort of a conversation around, well, at least if he falls behind, he can still throw up a wall and stun you, much less how we're seeing Ymir start to drive some of these games. So maybe a new age over in the support role. Granted, I think in order to play it at that level, you've got to be incredible at the god, so something to be said for that as well. There's SSG looking for another invade here. Sam for Soccer slowed down largely from what we saw in game number 1, and Cheerio and Raffer are going to combine for a little stripped away gold.
Taking away any farm you can from Sam is the best way to mitigate the Sam diff that he brings to the map, but he's not falling behind just yet. Still equivalent level to Cheerio in the jungle. SSG have done a good job of slowing down the pace. We've seen a lot less fighting in game 2, but maybe not for long.
Oh, change that tone right now. Sam for Soccer lands on top of Cheerio. All the Ymir wall slows down the fight, but Fine OK will find the fadeaway kill nonetheless. Sam for Soccer wall off to the side, but Nika is going to chase him down here. Fine OK up and over, but exchange blinks right on through. The last stick of damage gets it done, and the Guan Yu has a double.
Yeah, that's the power of Guan Yu, man. That horse, you can't wall him off. It's not going to stun him. If he was a little bit better, Sam for Soccer, and puts the wall on the other side, it would have walled off Nika completely and likely got him out of that situation alive. No one was quite in range to keep Nika in combat either, so the blink does come through to pick up that final kill and a final K as well. And that's, again, what happened in Game 1. Ghost Gaming gets a little bit overzealous with their engages, a little bit cocky, I would say, trying to go for the invade on the tail end there, and SSG has a clean counter rotation in, but they're not out of the clearing just yet. They're only 400 gold up. Might as well not be gold up at all at this point. SSG still have to solidify this lead. No objectives on the map have been taken just yet. Ghost Gaming are just fine.
I think it's the deep breath after what could have been a very snowball long lane. Panda Cat feeling aggressive here. He's going to do big damage onto Vote. Minions blocking off a lot of damage. Mike is here. We know exactly where Vote will fall. It's maybe to the hands of Mike here in just a moment. Just trying to body block off Vote. The roll right back through, and Panda Cat ends up picking up the kill. Right on cue for what I'm saying, the long lane is slowed down.
That's interesting that Vote decides to roll in there. He could have easily decided to just give PBM the kill, which, you know, an ahead Ymir, not something you want to see, but certainly better than giving the kill to the actual carry of the team, Panda Cat. The interesting decision, maybe he thought he would be able to turn it around if he was able to stand inside that minion wave, or maybe it was just a little bit of a misclick as he's trying to lock down which direction he's trying to roll out to, but either way, the pressure that we're seeing that Ghost put out, not only in the duo lane, but everywhere on the map, has been so good so far. And SSG, to their credit, have been able to slow it down. We're not looking at too big of a gold lead. KDs are about even 3-3, where he's standing at 7 minutes. But it's going to be up to Nika in particular to try and use this lead that he's got on the Guan Yu, a double kill. His gold is coming online very early on. He's going to have the mobility advantage with his ultimate as well. I think this first Gold Fury fight is going to come down to which solo laner gets there first.
Fine OK is going to do some damage to Cheerio here as Twig is going to chase down Raffer. And I think looking forward to some of those fights, very important to look at early game leads and see how they either grow or shrink. Panda Cat's built himself 2 levels now over Vote after Mike has set up a few kills there. It's been the team fighting, though, from game number 1 that Ghost Gaming really dominated SSG on. And they have a very similar comp outside of Cupid. Granted, Fields of Love huge in some of those team fights as well. Do you think Spacestation Gaming, though, you look at this draft and you look at the team fight, are there enough answers to what we know Ghost Gaming are going to try to do again that we already saw in game 1?
Well, as far as peel goes, we're looking a little bit better off. Rapper on Sobek, Tail Whip, obviously going to be a very strong tool. The slow from lurking in the waters, as long as he sticks around his backline, is going to make it much harder for these dives to come through. Dardez is going to have a better time surviving. He doesn't have as much survivability as a Chang'e does with the built-in healing and the Beats Aegis on the second ability, but he's still going to have a good time just dropping the shield on himself, has a bubble buddy inside of Argus. I think it's more so that SSG are bringing a little bit more dive themselves than they are backline peel.
Ooh, Cherio nearly gets ticked with a little bit of damage there. Cavalry charge from Nika is going to run down Captain Twig here. Mike gets the kill onto Nika on the back end. Sam for Soccer finds the stun onto Cherio, and Mike is there for the double kill. This Ymir is doing it all. Five kills on the board for Ghost Gaming, all 5 affected by Mike. SSG answer back with 1 kill in this engagement as I'm gassing up Mike. He might end up getting caught out here by Rapper. The answer, though, from Ghost Gaming, watch the backside. Rapper does get the kill onto Mike. Darda is trying to retreat in the mid lane. Fine, okay, gets the polymorph down, but he ends up getting the kill.
Sam drops the wall from over the wall, is able to block him off. He doesn't teleport to the hammer, though, so Rapper will be able to walk out of this situation alive. And Mike does what he needs to. He gets a double kill, then buys enough time for his team to rotate in, trades out his life for the enemy mid laners. You're still the support. I know Mike's popping off, he's making these huge plays, but he still is that support for his team, so any kill he can get on a carry, trading out his own life, is going to be huge value. Now, Twig can farm up his own jungle. We didn't even allow Dardez to clear out some waves, so he's going to fall further behind that way as well. It's looking tough for SSG. Ghost Gaming's pressure has been constant. It's just so oppressive how they decided to play the map.
Right, it's the same concerns from the first game. There's just too fast on the rotation, too consistent on the backline dive. So the peel that we were sort of mentioning before that big engagement is going to have to be strong for sure from Spacestation Gaming. Obviously, Nika liked the Mystical Mail route. He's going to opt for the same option here on the Guan Yu this game. Fine, okay. Looking towards something similar from what he had in game number 1. Worked out for the Nike just fine there. And, you know, Mifflin, through the first 10.5 minutes of this game, this Guan Yu has done maybe exactly what SSG have hoped him to do.
Yeah, this Guan Yu is looking like a very strong pick. He's able to match the damage output from Fine OK, the Taolu Assault, kind of dealing with a little bit of that defense. It helps out a lot in lane when soul laners both decide to go for defense. One of them having that shred is going to be hugely impactful, as well as the fact that Nika has a heal in his kit. He's going to be able to out-sustain, so Fine OK is going to play very smart around these fights. That's why we see Nika constantly going for poke. He knows he's going to win that sustain battle.
That's why maybe Sam for Soccer looking towards the Brawler's Beat Stick first item overall as well. If I'm remembering correctly, it was Jotun's first item for Thor in game number 1, so a little extra anti-heal immediately there for Sam to maybe get this game started. Small collapse maybe here from Space Station Gaming. Pluck out of the polymorph, but Mike might end up going down nonetheless here. Argus doing most of the damage, chasing him down. Captain Twig on a rotation here. Sam for Soccer. Big double dunk in the backline. Panda Cat eats the polymorph this time around. A bit disjointed of a fight. Space Station Gaming better off for it. Sam for Soccer falls to Dardez.
Well played from SSG. They immediately spot out the rotation from PBM and Panda Cat, and they group up accordingly, setting up for it. Sam is able to get there and connects a huge dunk, but with the ultimate still being up on Vode, he was able to get out.
Fine, okay, thinking maybe he can get a kill onto Dardez here. Has to drop the Sentinel of Zeus and will end up dropping down on the back end, so a little too aggressive there. Dardez picks up another kill in this game. Now right back to even with Captain Twig. The largest swing we've seen here. Lots of fights, Mifflin, very close as far as kills and gold goes. But SSG a clean 3-0 there in that previous engagement. It's going to be a gold fury for free now for Space Station Gaming, as Mike wants nothing to do with it.
Yeah, smart decision. We saw what Rapper had to deal with last time he tried to go in 1 versus 5. PBM says, well, I've seen how that goes. I don't want to just go down for free. So he walks himself out of there, and he's going to be able to sustain just a little bit, cover up some of those losses. But now, SSG have finally established themselves a lead in this set, about nearly 2,000 gold in their favor. They're starting to group up incredibly well. Nika, being the difference maker, was able to rotate to that team fight first, and he gets huge value out of it. They make use of his sustain so they can move into the gold fury on the tail end as well. Sam for Soccer Walker trading on his life while Cherio is able to farm up the jungle, closes up that gap, and actually expedites it a little bit. Now Cherio 1 level up as well. Kinsai's already online, going towards a little bit of utility, likely the Toxic Blade next to the Erlang Shen. Things are starting to really pan out for SSG. Their team fight's starting to come together.
That's right, especially if Captain Twig moves into a Soul Gem later on as well. Some of that extra sustain, I think, bought Twig enough time in some of the fights in Game 1 to even just buy one more rotation of cooldowns on that Hebo. So maybe some anti-heal will find some value for SSG as well. Looks like the sprint for Nika, his second active here. We started to see maybe a little bit more of this Mifflin. Not in every game, it's maybe few and far between, but teleport, maybe a mainstay out of the solo lane for so long, but now being exchanged in back-to-back games for Blink Thorn's Fine OK and Blink Sprint for Nika.
I think that's likely due to the fact that we're starting to see that soul laners are trying to get involved in the team fights a lot earlier on. We've already seen it twice now in this set, where both teams have been rotating their soul lanes out around level 11, level 12, the second that they can. You don't really need teleport on these gods if they're already going to be in the team fight, and instead they're picking up these more team fight relevant actives, trying to help out the entire squad with the Heavenly Wings. Now they're going to be running a lot faster. It actually works incredibly well with Nika's ultimate as well. Going to speed him up while he's on the horse, and it's going to help out the entirety of the team. The Blink going to help him get into that back line, try and shut down this Hebo. And Guan Yu has a deceptively strong matchup in a Hebo. You can't water spout him when he's using the Taolu Assault. There's no knockup potential, so Captain Twig is going to be taking a ton of damage no matter what, and then the ultimate to chase down the Crushing Wave as well. Maybe that's why we're starting to see this Guan Yu get picked up.
That's right. I like that Doug hovers. The Sentinel with Zeus. No Sunder picked up yet. Rapper just moves over to level 12, so I want to keep my eyes on what his second active is. He'll head back to base right now and swap that one out for something a little bit different. It is the Sunder now for Rapper, his second active. So that'll find maybe some good, or provide maybe a good advantage for SSG in some of these fights as well. I bring up anti-heal, and I know Rapper has a little bit of that on his 3 as well. So, the Sobek getting in the face of this Hebo and mitigating some of Captain Twig's healing is going to be very important as this game goes on.
It should be for sure. And now this Sunder already leveled up. It seems like now Rapper's going to have to shift up his playstyle a little bit, less so the engage god that in your face in the Sobek playstyle, and instead playing in the back line, keeping him alive.
Wow, Fine OK forces a lot out of Spacestation Gaming. Same for Soccer is here to play. Look at the Sentinel of Zeus. It's going to lock down 3 members of Space Station. Fine OK backs himself off. Blink right back in from Mike. Polymorph wide off to the side. But Cherio, he's soloing out Sam here, and he might even turn around and just grab a double onto Fine OK. Captain Twig, he's left alone. He's got to retreat. SSG running away with this fight as we stand.
But Cherio on the backline's been left isolated. Picks up a kill onto Fine OK. PBM finds the freeze, but the kill's still going SSG's way.
Yeah, they got way too much damage here. Mifflin, a 4 for none for Space Station Gaming. Panda Cat, the last left alive. And it's going to be the Fire Giant called on now. Maybe Pyromancer, maybe both. Let's get the big one first as SSG widen the gap here. Panda Cat wants nothing to do with it.
It's almost a complete reversal of what we saw in Game 1, 16 minutes in. Now it's SSG dominating the team fights back-to-back, picking up an early Fire Giant with 6 towers still on the map for Ghost Gaming as well. That's going to be an easy way for SSG to really balloon out this gold lead. We imagine we see Ghost Gaming try and put up a defense around these tier 2s. This early on in the game, Fire Giant is strong, but without the itemization to back it up, the tankiness isn't quite there for Raph, so it's not going to be that easy for him to tank up these towers either. I don't think we'll see them try and put up any sort of hard defense around these tier 1s, but the Pyromancer being left up by SSG is interesting. They could have very easily taken that before they go back to base, get an additional gold lead, and then move on to the duo side of the map, the best side to push with Fire Giant, and then get gold 3 as it respawns the next 20 seconds. SSG is completely primed to pull far ahead.
And Cherio now, we saw what he was able to do in the back line of the previous fight. Fine OK had to burn a lot of his cooldowns, and then the Nike attempts to save Sam's life, but this Erlang Shen just did way too much damage, and Cherio almost just turned around a 2-for-1 on the back end of the Fire Giant fight there. Now as the Toxic Blade, the Wing Blade was the one completed just before that. Cherio is going to be massively difficult to deal with. If Sam drops on Cherio and Cherio is able to beads out the stun, Sam might just buy death for himself, depending on what target he picks.
And the Wing Blade in of itself for Cheerio is going to have huge value. FineOK has a slow, as does Twig, as does PBM. He's going to be able to immune all of that and then get a speed boost for himself. And we could say that Cherry took the 1 versus 2 in the back, but secretly it was a 1 versus 3, just instant kills the first person he comes across.
Yeah, that's right.
He completely separates that team fight. Cheerio having a much better game here in game 2. And now we're starting to see the push coming through. Sanford Soccer on the right side of the map won't be here to help out on this tier 2, but Nika kind of hovering around in mid as well. It seems like we're seeing a split push from Ghost Gaming.
And you know, Mifflin, I was wondering what direction FineOK was going to go with his silver talisman a moment ago. I mean, maybe a bulwark for extra shield. I mean, I'm truly wasn't sure with what opportunity or what option maybe he was going to look for, but Talisman of Energy, an interesting pickup now for the Ghost Gaming solo laner. You think that's an item that might make some sense?
Yeah, FineOK go Burr. He likes to run fast and be tanky at the same time, but maybe not tanky enough.
I don't know what he does there. He gets plucked and just deleted by Spacestation Gaming. He needs a little more uptime to get some value out of that one. Now Spacestation Gaming. Mifflin, we're 19 minutes in and FineOK is dead for 35 seconds. Spacestation Gaming, 5-member strong. Down the left lane they go. One silver lining is that Argus is just a moment away from falling down. Another good pluck from Rapper. That's going to be another kill here for Spacestation Gaming. Sanford Soccer maybe looking for a dunk target here, but it's Vote instead who has a double kill. Down goes Sam, but he's not able to find anything good from Rapper.
Down goes Sam.
From Donez, rather, it's a triple kill for Vote. Down goes the left side. Phoenix Mifflin, are they going to end this game in 20 minutes?
It looks like it. FineOK spawning in the next 2 seconds. There's a little bit of defense on this Titan. 3 towers still up. Does he have enough?
I don't know if they care. Everyone's just staring at the
He's
Titan.
AFK.
FineOK is trying to slow down Vote, but the Titan is just taking way too much damage. This game will not reach the 20-minute mark. SSG push us to a game 3.
Disrespect from Vote there. Doesn't even try and walk around the shield from me. He's all right, do what you gotta do. Your team's not coming back alive. I'll kill your Titan when you're done. Maybe I'll take your life as well if you stand between us. I mean, that's one way to reset the mental, win faster. And now Ghost, maybe we're looking at an 18, 17-minute game 3. Going either way, SSG looked real good.
Mifflin, this time yesterday, we're still in the middle of game number 1, a 50-whatever minute game that was. We're already on to game 3. And we've only casted 40 or so minutes of Smite. This is wild between Ghost Gaming and SSG. Maybe exactly what we expect, though, given these two teams and the way they like to play.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that SSG is willing to go back to what's worked for them in the past. This Chang'e pick, I'm sure you've heard enough from Aggro in the past, just kind of singing, not the praises, whatever the opposite of praise, the downfalls of that pick. It's a very highly volatile pick, but now that he's back on a signature pick, Darda's inside of that Hera, they look a lot better. Raffer connects so many plucks towards the late game and immediately wins them out 2 team fights, plucks PBM and FineOK, both frontliners, and the damage output was just too high.
Yeah, a lot of it was Vote here. It's a triple kill towards the end of the game. And talk about now both hunters as far as assisting their teams, exchanging blows now. Game 1, Panda Cat, massive. And now here in Game 2, Vote comes online right at the perfect time. A triple kill to effectively seal the deal. Not effectively, he literally seals the deal there towards the end. Can't wait to see what Game 3 has in store. I wonder if maybe Ghost feel the need to pivot away from the composition that works so well for them here in Game 2. I can't wait any longer, so we're going to send it to a quick break, and we'll be right into Game 3 after that.
Well, after game one, Ghosts say, hey, if you can't beat it, we'll just keep doing it. So Space Station decide to beat it. That's what they absolutely do here in game two. Run over Ghost very, very quickly. And now it looks like we're dealing with two teams where once they get a lead, they're not going to make a whole lot of mistakes here, Gore. They're not going to give it away. They're not going to fumble it. They're going to go ahead and win. A 16.5-minute fire giant, I think, happened in this game because Space Station were just in control.
I mean, a 1953 game end, it's not often we get anything pre-20 minutes, let alone something that is going to, like you say, have a 16-minute fire giant leads just coming up as fast as possible there for SSG. But it was the same way. I mean, we were talking about 17 minutes in last game being where Ghost were kind of just so far ahead that it didn't feel like there was any catching up. At this point, I'd say these two teams not only showcase how their strength, but also how well you can clap back at something. Sam has an insane game number one, and then a very lackluster game number two here on the Thor. Didn't really have a lot of opportunity to grow. Same thing, Panda Cat didn't really have a lot of opportunity to grow here. They only banned the Cupid. The only thing that was really different was banning the Cupid outside of their own draft adjustments, and I think that was still a good call for them. They get that Sunder this time around. It makes Fine OK feel a little bit more mortal, I guess is the best way to describe it. Someone that you can feasibly kill and lock down, and Raffer, I mean, he just had a lot of control and setup for the team, as well as Cherio and Nika having phenomenal games. Everybody on SSG just seemed to finally hit the mark.
Yeah, I think that Space Station made the adjustments they needed to with their own draft more than anything. With Dardez back on a mid-mage that we know he's comfortable on, like this Hera, where he was able to control the middle of the map. Raffer looked so much better than he did on the Kuzenbo in game number one as well. And then obviously Nika was a big impact player for them on the Guan Yu. Who knew? Make sure you guys are locking in Guan because it worked here for him. But now we're seeing some of these clips here where Cherio was the problem. Gets into the back line, and 1v3s. You heard Miff and Dave talking about it on the desk. He went back there and took care of all the problems basically on his own and kept them out of the fight. When he's able to absorb this much attention, this many cooldowns, it's going to be hard for anyone to beat them, even a team like Ghost.
I mean, very similar to what we saw out of Sam last game, right? Where he commands so much presence. Although Sam was definitely more in the setup territory still, finding good lockdown, where Cherio literally would just, like you said, walk back there, scream, look at me, and if you didn't, you're dead. If you did, you were still probably dead, but at least you got some damage off. I think then it opened up the avenue for Vote to be able to walk forward as well, as Dardez, just a lot of control and damage coming from them, and they were almost always safe because Raffer had good peel, same thing for Nika, a lot of healing. There were moments where they'd be one hit away from dead, and that Guan would come in to save them. And like you said, hey, that Guan Yu has a 100% win rate now in Phase 2, so maybe you just keep scooping them up.
Maybe. I don't know if I'm 100% signed up on that one, but it looks like he's doing well. Let's get ready for the picks and bans for game number 3 now, where so far, Ghosts have said, okay, the draft in game 1 worked. They largely kept the same draft in game number 2. Now it's time for Ghost to make the adjustment. They're back in that first pick spot as well, and they have been top picking the Habwa whenever it's left available. Space Station have not really seen a need to take that away. They just made the adjustment by banning the Cupid. If Space Station don't ban that Cupid this time, I wonder if you go ahead and grab it. It was a night and day difference for Panda Cat between the Cupid and the Hachima.
And it was their 4th ban, so there's still that opportunity for, the top 6 to still go the exact same way that we saw last time, and then do what SSG did, right? SSG recognized, man, we didn't pick up a mid laner in our top 3 in game 1, and then they just kept banning out Dardez, so we grab Hera in game 2. Maybe Ghosts need to do the same thing either with the Cupid, or now that their first pick, maybe they can scoop up the Rom. It is that question, we go back to number 1, Hebo was their first pick there, but maybe you adjust that for your carry. Twig had a pretty solid game, then an okay game, not necessarily one that I think is ever going to be remembered. When we look back on that last one, Ghost just didn't have much opportunity to flourish. So I'm wondering if they still want that as high priority as they've been putting it.
Yeah, I'm interested about that too. It doesn't seem as though Space Station, at least up until now, have really felt like banning it or anything like that, so they should be comfortable in that regard. These bans, though, fairly standard. The Aphrodite band, but also the Herod this time, so not letting Dardez have that mid lane comfort pick back would probably be much more comfortable putting him back on the Chang'e. In SSG, banning Emoja, Freya, and Hercules. So the Habwa out there, the Cupid out there, the Rom out there, a lot of strong picks are up, and this is where Ghosts get to kind of decide what they feel like is the most important thing in this set right now. What has been dictating which directions these two teams are going to be falling? Up until now, they have prioritized this Habwa with a top pick, and looks like they're not going to make any adjustments to that here.
Now, I think SSG are in the same position that they were last time, where top 3 for your mid is still maybe something crucial, because you're still only hitting part of what makes Dardes great. And, you know, this is something I don't think we've really gotten to touch on it, but Persephone's just been devoid this set. She hasn't been in the bans, she hasn't been in the picks. So, I mean, if it comes down to tier list, still someone that you could pick up that can absolutely rock the other's world if you are able to, you know, bring her in and play her at that level. But right now, especially with the way things have been going through 2 games, I don't know if anybody's going to be picking her up. I feel like SSG, you find a lot of similarities from last game. I wouldn't mind a Kuzenbo if they wanted to go back to it, but they like this Sobek. There's a lot of good setups potential still over there in the duo lane. But I wouldn't be surprised if this next pick for SSG is their mid laner, just to make sure they get something for Dardes so those last 2 bans aren't targeted.
I like this, though. Go ahead and grab this Cupid now, because you know SSG will ban it later on in the draft, and it's huge in these team fights. It really is when it's able to force out relics, it's able to force out cooldowns to try and make it out of there in time to still be alive. That makes it so much easier for Sam, whatever he ends up picking up in the jungle, if that's the 1-2 punch they're working with, if it's something like a Thor Dunk and a Fields of Love to strip away those cooldowns. Looks like they're going to wait on Sam's jungle pick, though. The King Arthur coming in right away here for Fine, and I believe this was banned from him back in Game 1. Yeah. Not 100% sure about Game 2, but this time he's going to make sure he's got it.
And I like the way Ghosts have changed this draft up. Again, it's the same thing that SSG did in Game 2, where it was, what were our high priorities, what worked for us, what didn't, and what can we avoid getting down there in bans. And so, you know, from Game 2, Ghosts don't necessarily need their jungler. They waited and still ended up getting Thor last game. Didn't quite hit the same note that they did in Game 1, but that concept that you know Sam's going to be reliant no matter what, at least in Godpool, you don't have to worry about it. This is what I was worried about for SSG, though. Now, Morrigan's on that list. I wouldn't be surprised if another mage maybe just gets thrown under the bus as well. You could maybe flex over. I mean, Nika still has a pick, so maybe you knock another solo laner out, but realistically, if you can control that mid lane, it feels like you start to win the game.
If you can keep Dardes from single-handedly deciding how the game goes, you've got a much better shot against Spacestation, because so often he does, and I think that's what they're looking at now, banning away the Morrigan, Hera, and the Aphrodite. But this last ban is a ban over towards Nika here with this Mulan ban, and there's not a ton of solo laners that have been taken off the board, the Mulan, the Amma, and already the King Arthur on their side. I'm surprised that's not more of like a Sun Wukong ban here in this spot, Corey, because that has felt like what Nika's been comfortable going to.
I think it's maybe less of a comfort, more of a matchup thing, or maybe a little slice of both, right? Well, Guan Yu comes through. Hey, that 100% win rate, there it is. That's all that matters, right? You have to look at that column and only that column. Ignore that he's only been picked once throughout all of this, just the win rate. But I do think it's one of those things. Mulan is an early game abuser. I mean, she just will thrash you early on with her damage output, especially as she levels up her abilities. Then you start getting a heal in there. There's a lot of good control for her. I think Arthur, even though he is still a pretty dominant bully, might struggle with her a little bit more. So I kind of like that ban, but at the same time, we haven't seen Nika, of all players, play that Mulan the most. I think more sanguine, honestly, when I think of Mulan right now. So it's still a little off to me, but let Ghosts do what they have. They get a Cerberus and a Nemesis. You can't argue with that.
No, not at all. You love when the Thor gets banned away for Sam, so he has to settle for the Nemesis. Not bad, huh? As sort of a consolation prize for him. And this Cerberus, I don't know, it doesn't particularly excite me, but it is something that Mike has played and played well. So certainly something that can work with this draft. Provides a little bit extra that magic damage too that you do have to worry about. And just great control in the team fights. Now you have to be afraid of Cupid ult and the Stygian Torment. That's going to be a lot of pressure on your beads and other ability to get out of the way of that CC.
And it's really small, but I think going up against the Guan Yu, having that little bit of anti-heal that's into Cerberus's kit is going to be helpful, stealing some of that healing for himself as well. So maybe impactful, but like you said, a beads burner. But now I'm looking at Objective Secure, and Hebo does a lot of damage with his ult. It's good lockdown. Cupid has a great field and zone when he throws out Fields of Love. But Isis, when it comes down to it, like, I love Spirit Ball. I think if you hit those consistently, you are what can be one of the best mages that you could have in the mid lane. But you have to look at Circle of Protection, and it almost exclusively at that ability for what it can do to your team around objectives. I think SSG, even if they aren't winning a lot of team fights, now have a huge burst and a huge heal that is going to be around every Fury, every Fire Giant, every engage that they have and need it. And that stresses me out a little bit, but she is still easy to lock down, and I don't know if she's going to be doing too hot up against the Nemesis.
Could be difficult for it. Feels like Ghost have all the pick potential and SSG have all the team fight. We'll see how it ends up working, though, in actuality. Game number 3 with Dawson and Myth.
We've only gotten shorter game time as this set has gone on. Mid-20s in game 1, sub-20 in game number 2. Ghost Gaming and SSG Mifflin have moved us on to a game number 3. And for the first time this set, there's really a composition pivot from Ghost Gaming. All of their picks really outside of the Hebo, and then, of course, the Cupid from game 1 is a new look for them here in this set.
Yeah, it's a much stronger look, I'd say. I think Nemesis is going to be a straight-up upgrade. It seems like as the weeks go on, the SPL is starting to forget a little bit about how strong this pick is, but especially into SSG's draft, Sanford Soccer is going to get huge value at that ultimate, stripping away the defense from Cherio, Nika, or Rapper if he so chooses. I think the big question mark on SSG's draft is this Isis. She's one of the best for getting pressure out of the mid lane. She's one of the best for confirming early game objectives, and they've certainly got objective burn having a Rom and an Erlang Shen on their team. But it's how well they've been able to position themselves around it, how well they've been able to fight into Ghost Gaming's counter engage. They've got so much through this Cerberus. It's going to be a very interesting game.
That's right. It's a great point. You know, the Isis can drop down the circle of protection, especially if Ghost had a draft similar to Game 1 and Game 2, where they're just looking to constantly run at your backline. Something they still have the potential to do here. The King Arthur for Fino K is definitely a pick we have seen him lock into once or twice, and we definitely know what sort of rotation and teamfight impact potential the Arthur brings, especially when Fino K is working the buttons.
Speaking of Fino K, this King Arthur and a Guan Yu matchup, can't pretend that it's one I'm well versed in. We don't see this very often, but it's going to be scrappy. That's what we're going to see a lot. But again, the sustain should favor Nika, and it already seems like the poke is as well. That Taolu Assault's going to make it very hard for Fino K to find value out of some of his abilities. Obviously going to be knocked up immune inside of it, but the ultimate from King Arthur is going to be the difference maker. Or maybe it's going to be Cherry.
Uh-oh, there's a rotation. Oh, but first blood, it's happened elsewhere on the map. You gotta get a kill on the Fino K here, but you're unable to do so. Where did Sam just go? Over to the mid lane. Dardes locked down immediately. Junglers exchanging pressure almost at the exact same time, but it's Dardes who falls, and it's Sanford Soccer who grabs first blood.
Man, that's going to be tough for Isis. That's a god. You don't pick any gods to fall behind, but Isis in particular is one that really needs to get a lead. She wants to be able to play aggressive. That Wing Gus is already going to be hard to channel against a god like Hebo once he does start to pull a little bit further ahead. You're not going to deal the same amount of burst damage, even though Isis has a similar potential for damage output. It's a lot more elongated. It's a channeled ability. Spirit Bomb is going to be much harder to connect from a range as well. I think that Dardes is going to be on the back foot for the next couple minutes.
Well, here's what happens in that first blood. Simple rotation. That's the 3-man first overall. So Mike left early. He's level 2 here when that clip is happening. So Dardes, maybe Mifflin largely not expecting PBM to be making a rotation at level 2.
I mean, I wouldn't be, especially with this Cerberus having so much pressure in the lane. You'd expect him to be over there trying to push it in. Yeah, oh, us mid laners. Shut up, aggro fanboy. You were a jungler 2 days ago, but Dardes getting aggressive now. Takes out the silence on a Sanford Stalker, but the escape comes through. Cherio trying to hover around, can't quite find it. It's going to be a much slower game, I'm thinking, from Ghost Gaming because of this Nemesis in the jungle.
Aggro fanboy. Unreal, man. Unreal. Just gut punch coming at me with that. Got me all off my beat here. Fair enough. There. Captain Twig, though, look, and if we want to keep talking about the mid lane, which I certainly do, I think it's important for I think it's important for Captain Twig to now have a bounce back. I think we've seen the two sides of this Hebo pick. One where in game 1, in an event where you're getting killed a lot, you can at least do most of your damage. In game number 2, we weren't really calling his name all that often, so I think this is one where you need to get that damage online and find a way to confirm it. Though then you look at what SSG have, and it's very similar to what slowed down Twig in game number 2.
Yeah, Twig's going to have to make his stamp known before Nika's able to rotate out of the lane, because this Guan Yu does have such a good counter matchup there, and if he does decide to go a little bit more tanky than he did in game 1, it's going to be even harder for Captain Twig to peel him off. Any magic defense is going to be able to stop PBM as well, so this Guan Yu is just going to drop into the team fight, use the blink to close the gap to the Hebo, use your Taolu Assault, use your dash, heal up, drop into the ultimate, and chase it down from there. Twig should be able to return damage relatively well, at least if he has to blink past Nika or even use his ultimate further into the team fight and try to trade out his damage there instead of trying to prioritize saving his own life. But I think it's going to be very difficult. But with the start being as it is, Dardes falling very early on for the first blood, Captain Twig's primed to have a pretty decent game, even though he is about a half level down.
That's right, just takes over to that level 6 mark. PPM was rotating in behind Dardes, but luckily Rapper was there to maybe counter-engage what PBM was looking to do. Half-level lead for Sanford Soccer out of the jungle as well. Largely to be expected. After the first blood, see if Rapper can steal away any of the oracles. He's not able to do so here, so a small win for Ghost Gaming, but Sanford Soccer's rotated in. Circle of protection on the back line. Not gonna detonate for much of anything at all. Captain Twig on the board for the first time this game. Cheerio pulled back in by PBM. The pin is down. Pluck just wide. Rapper's going to do his best to chase down Captain Twig, just waiting for those cooldowns. Cheerio has escaped, and
Big
Captain
juke.
Twig will as well.
Nice play from Twig, using the water spout to keep Rapper's momentum moving forward. Immediately drops the 180, goes back towards his own team. Sickening Strike was less than 2 seconds from coming up there. Would have been the kill. Clean play from Twig, although it does pain me to sing the praise of a mid laner.
We're dying on this hill today, huh? Alright, we'll see what direction Ghost Gaming are able to force. Look, 101 on Sam, 101 on Captain Twig, both in a very good spot, the exact same. They've combined for everything. Mike is there as well, the support main's out there. Wondering why we're not discussing this Cerberus, and maybe for good reason, because now Mike, in consistent rotations, has been able to help his team set up for a couple of kills. Watch out, fine, okay. Nika has kill pressure here as well, and he wants blood. Under the tower he goes. He's got the stun. Does the tower have the damage? No! Just shy at 18 HP. Oh, Sam for Soccer not gonna get the kill. Fine, okay, Will. Sam does get the assist, though. Chaos over in the solo lane.
Nika was just hoping that it would have been just long enough for Final K not to get the kill credit there. Unfortunately for him, it was not, and he does trade out his blink as well, so that kill pressure that he would have had he decided to rotate out early on and try and put some of that pressure on a Twig is going to go down for the next couple of minutes as he waits for that cooldown to come back up. But you can't take it away from him. Nika soloed Final K. Who else can say that in the league? It's a very small list of people who can say that. Now Nika joins those ranks as well. But Sanford Soccer is doing a very good job keeping afloat. Your nemesis, who's already going to have a much weaker early game than an Erlang Shen, has been able to pull a level lead, is rotating throughout the map, making his presence known, making it very hard for Dardes to get any value out of this Isis pick. That slow is being so detrimental, setting up Captain Twig for a couple kills himself. It's looking good for Ghost, but it's the early game. When isn't it?
That's true, and you know, you look at Final K and the solo kill that happens there thanks to Nika. That was through a set of reinforced Greaves. I mean, there's been such bullying happening over in that solo lane that Final K has had to opt for a slightly more defensive route right off of the top. Might get worse here now. Cherio's going to move in behind. The ward is SSG's own. Taunt back in. Cavalry charge finds Final K. There's the stun. There's the pin. There's the kill. SSG snag a second.
And Ghost looked like for a moment they were going to try and posture towards this gold tree. Instead, it looks like it's going to be an invade attempt from Ghost Gaming, trying to make up some pressure on the left side of the map, since we see SSG dedicating to the right. Dardes, force use the ult.
Dardes has to back off here. That's a stun onto Twig. Twig is going to take big damage here on the back end. Twig, I think, realizing maybe that ult was going to come down, didn't quite have the execute damage needed. We already saw what happened with one tower dive over in the solo lane. Twig wasn't looking for more of the same here, but Vote is overstayed. Sanford Soccer rotates over into the long lane as well. Nem ult down, and Panda Cat hits the shots from range. Sanford Soccer is exactly where he needs to be as Ghost Gaming now trade back one of their own.
Interesting that Vote was playing that far up in the lane, knowing that the entirety of Ghost Gaming is hovering that side of the jungle. Maybe he just caught out a little bit. Panda Cat does a good job locking him down in place, dropping the Fields of Love to force out the ultimate from the Rom, essentially turning him into a sitting duck.
How about this from Captain Twig? He has completed the Doom Orb previously before moving into that Soul Gem. Just has, you know, enough to get the passive utility online from the tier 2 item there, but maybe sensing Mifflin that a little extra healing is a little bit more important, so let's get the Soul Gem online as early as possible.
It's an interesting decision for sure. The tier 3 Doom Orb is going to give you a huge boost in power. It seems like he likely went back to base, tried to finish up that tiny trinket because he couldn't quite afford the Doom Orb, and now has dedicated himself to trying to get that additional cooldown online from the Soul Gem. I think it's going to be impactful in that he needs it just to keep himself alive. He's already falling slightly behind Dardez in mid, despite the pressure going Dardez's way. Almost a mirror of Game 1, where Captain Twig was the one who was constantly dying, but still able to pull a lead for himself. Now it's Dardez, who's also finished up the Doom Orb as well. The damage output from this Isis has been largely mitigated by the pressure coming his way. It's not like a Habois when you get attacked, you just drop the Crushing Wave and drop 500 damage on whoever's trying to hit you. Instead, Dardez has to drop the Circle of Protection, sit inside of it, wait for it to charge up, pop it for the heal, and every single time it goes down and it's not on an objective, SSG is losing out. Isis is the god of early objective confirmed.
That's right. Maybe SSG then choose to rotate over towards this Gold Fury side. Though it has been a trend that we've seen throughout this set so far, where Panda Cat has pulled just a small lead over Vote, a kill on board. Vote, of course, falling when Sam for Soccer rotated over in behind after Ghost Gaming kind of telegraphed that red buff invade. So makes maybe an early Gold Fury contest a little bit more difficult here. Cherio again over on the right-hand side of the jungle here. Won't be able to steal away the Harpies, but will reveal his position. Sam for Soccer may be looking for the chase, but we'll think better of it.
I don't think we're going to see too much more gank attempts from Cherio into the Soul lane, which is weird to say. Cherio loves showing up in the short lane, but now that Stone of Gaia is already online for Final K, if Cherry decides to use the Turtle Knockup, it's only going to help out with the sustain. We're starting to see a lot of utility come online as well, but Sam in a little bit of trouble. Here's the chase.
Beautiful combo there. Sam for Soccer loses half of his health. Raffer wants to kill though. Snipes down from Vote. That's going to be the killing blow. But now PBM, he's maybe overstayed. Stun in the pluck onto the Cerberus on the backside as Cherio has made his way onto Panda Cat. 9 turns blessing. Come right on back off, but Panda Cat has turned around the damage. Cherio better be thinking twice about taking that fight again. And that turns this one into a 1-for-1.
Cherry, if you're stepping to the king, you best step correct, but Boot getting caught out as well. Twig with a long-range water spout into the Crushing Wave puts him 6 feet under. That's a 2-for-2 in favor of Ghost Gaming, or 2-for-1 rather.
And there's another stun on Define OK here, but look at the healing that this Arthur is getting. Plenty from that Stone of Gaia. Now Captain Twig, an interesting rotation around the backside. That's going to be a free kill over to Dardez, who's now gotten his first on the board. Maybe Twig thinking he can do a little bit of extra damage. Has completed that Doom Orb, so that one more important than over onto the Soul Gem. That's an important kill, though, I think, Mifflin, to pull back. That's going to give Dardez some time now to build a small lead over Twig.
And Dardez was already slightly ahead. Now he's going to be able to reestablish that lead, push down some waves. Twig gets a little bit lost there. With Crushing Wave being down, he's got no survivability walking into that aggressive pathing. Raffer has a very easy time lining up that pluck and setting up for the kill. And it's very easy to find the Spirit Bomb off a pluck combo, but now Dardez too deep.
Look at this from Sam. Sam drops the ultimate and then immediately backs off. Maybe just trying to slow Dardez down from grabbing the kill there. Red buff not completed by either team, so definitely will be the chance there for Captain Twig to finish that off. But Mifflin, an important note to look at, though it might be small for the next minute or so. The Circle of Protection will end up being down. I wonder, though, we saw, I think, we sung the praises of this Guan Yu in Game 2 and what Nika was able to bring for Spacestation Gaming. Though he has had maybe a little bit more pressure over Final K so far this game. Maybe even, you would argue, but then come rotation time, it's going to be that comparable impact of a King Arthur to a Guan Yu that's going to be fun to follow.
Yeah, I think so. It comes down to execution, as far as I'm concerned. Final K could do just as much disruption in the backline. He's got a decent matchup in a Dardez. If he uses the lesser form of his ultimate, can immediately stun out the Wing Gust, removing the majority of damage that this Isis can do. They're going to have a very hard time peeling him off. But I think that Final K's risk is that his dive is a lot more committal. If we see Nika blink in, drop the Talu, use his dash, use his heal, he still has the added benefit of being able to use that horse to escape a situation or chase down to his own discretion, where the Final K goes into a back line. If he teleports back there, he's just going to be stuck. He's going to have to win his ones.
Right, that's why I call it even. I mean, it's largely Nika clearing a wave, Final K clearing a wave. Most of the solo pressure from what we saw earlier maybe missing now, save a jungler making his way over there. 4 members of Ghost Gaming lurking around the left side of the map here. Oracles are dropped down, but some ward coverage close by from SSG. Sam for Soccer. Maybe a moment to touch on his build in just a second, depending on how this goes. It's purple buff invade, drop down. Ghost Gaming move themselves away. Stone cutting sword into Ikavel, though. Mifflin going to be doing some shredding and some stacking for himself. An interesting route here for this Nemesis.
It's that Ikavel is actually such a smart pickup, being able to strip away some of the power from Rom if he decides to look for the 1v1 there, or even away from the Erlang Shen if we see Sam for Soccer go for some 1v1s against the enemy jungler Cherio. I think it's a very smart pickup. I think it's one that's only facilitated by the fact that Spacestation also have an auto-attack-centric jungler, but it's just showing that Sam for Soccer is not solidified in his ways. He's not flowcharting these builds. He's actively thinking about what needs to be done in this game, and that's a fantastic adaptation of the Nemesis build.
Yeah, definitely, you know, especially after what we saw in Game 2, where Cherio was just sort of wailing away with this Erlang Shen build, and it's very similar to Game 2 from Cherio, and enough to solo out a Pyromancer. Was close, but Cherio will argue otherwise, never really close there. So smart from the SSG jungler. That's all Mifflin. And balloon some extra gold onto the...
Really helpful considering that Pyromancer is the easiest neutral objective to drop. Ghost Gaming already has a slight lead for themselves, and they've had pressure over into that soul lane just a little bit when we see Sam for Soccer rotate over. So removing that side of the map is going to devalue any sort of soul lane ganks. Now it's going to be more so who gets the pressure in the long lane, who can win out the 3v3 and really start to separate themselves through this gold fury. I think that it's going to come down to, again, which one of these soul laners is able to rotate out of lane first, and this time it should likely be Finoke since he elects to pick up the teleport relic.
Well, I say, you know, build this gold lead for SSG. It's a little hyperbole, but it's maybe exactly what they need here. This game has largely slowed down, but where we stand, Mifflin, it's what, about a 2,000 gold lead for Ghost Gaming. Just a couple of kills in the lead are Ghost, but they've done enough elsewhere on the map to start to build these advantages up and find themselves 2,000 ahead.
It's looking good for them, be it through objective control, be it through the ability just to invade the jungle, choose the fights where they want to go. Ghost Gaming is essentially controlling the map everywhere except for the short lane, and I think that's, you know, it's a qualified loss. You understand that Nika on this pick 1U is going to have a lot of sustain in the lane. He's going to be incredibly hard to kill. So I think the trade-off is that Finoke picking up the teleport should be able to out-rotate Nika, get involved in the team fight earlier, hope that you're able to win it out before he shows up, make sure that Twig's able to get off to a good start in the team fight as well. Ghost Gaming have a fantastic scaling potential into the late through this Nemesis, through this Cerberus and Cupid as well. I think they've got a ton of potential to just snowball it out. They don't really have to force this early lead. I mean, Dardez on this Isis is likely going to fall off. Cherio is going to have a very hard time executing the backline once everyone's starting to get to their true 6th item slot. Level 20, this Hebo is going to be swinging for the fences.
So tier 1 tower over in the solo lane being looked at by Sam and Finoke, but a counter gank, maybe an invade here from Cherio onto the purple buff side of Ghost Gaming. So some small skirmishes, maybe just trying to pull an advantage, but Sam for Soccer thinks he's found an opening onto Raffer, who's going to eat the ultimate and back himself away. So really out of everything, maybe the most impactful is that Sam has to drop the ultimate. You know, double red buffs were over onto Ghost Gaming, so that senses out maybe a red buff invade earlier on. Space Station Gaming maybe now realize they have a small advantage and can look for a fight.
But Twig's beads are down, which is why Raffer looks for it. He misses it, unfortunately for him, so he's going to get caught out.
Now he has to lurk in the waters. Fine, okay, he's rotated through. That's the 9 turns blessing onto the King Arthur. Off to the left-hand side, PBM is going to pull back in Dardez, who dies at the hands of Pandacat. Fine, okay, with the crushing wave, get rid of Raffer. Vote is just going to fall down to his death here in just a moment. Goodbye, says Captain Twig. Ghost Gaming collapse and find 3.
Picking it up to a 3,000 gold lead. 3 dead for the next 30 seconds. Everyone healthy on the side of Ghost. You're making the right call. Move on over to the Fire Giant. Only ones in range to defend are Cherio and Nika. Cherio instead electing to go push down that tier 1 left side tower, meaning that this is likely going to be an incredibly free Fire Giant. No one's going to move in.
Yeah, I don't see anyone from SSG making this rotation here. And, you know, so often, Myth, you see these types of fights. I mean, not 3 for none necessarily, but some of the early fights kind of even as far as gold swings go. That's a 1,000 gold fight, purely just the fight, now even larger. with that Fire Giant, and it's just going to get worse moving forward for SSG, I think, considering a lot of what we were concerned about as far as late game scaling goes. It's how much can you weather, I think, in these next four or so minutes where you need to slow down Ghost Gaming on their push through with this Fire Giant buff, because they have a composition that probably feels very confident in knocking down these towers.
It's good at knocking down towers, but it's matched by an equally good defense comp. Dardez with the Circle of Protection is going to boost the defense of his own team while creating a huge area where there's just a no-play zone for Ghosts around these structures. Rapper can look for a pluck like we saw in Game 2, immediately set up for an instant kill on one of these tanks. Boat has been having a bit of a quiet game. He's got a slight deficit 3 levels down, but he's already got the kin size. He's moving into the Atalantas, so he should be able to tank shred relatively effectively. I think it's really going to come down to how well is Nika able to corral Captain Twig, make sure that this crushing wave isn't killing his backline, and whether or not we see SSG decide to put up a defense on these tier 2 towers. It seems like Ghost gets the jump on this left side, so they won't be able to put up a defense there, but those mid tier 2, the solo side as well, you can easily put up a defense, at least try and slow down Ghost. The longer they're not inside your Phoenix, the better SSG are looking.
Yeah, stopping a crushing wave from half-healthing either of your carries is always going to be a tall task, especially when Twig, we know how sometimes he likes to play the Hebo. It's just roll it right on through. It's all I can do here at the end of this fight. Might as well just melt down as much damage as I can. He's done that and then some. Top net worth in the game, 3-1 and 3, affecting 2/3 of the kills that Ghost Gaming have. I think Panda Cat on this Cupid as well has capitalized near perfectly on a lot of the pressure that Ghost Gaming have built up for themselves. Now it's a free fury. I think maybe smart Mifflin by Spacestation Gaming not to even poke a head around that corner and see what's going on. So you start to look at the push that Ghost Gaming are going to build up here. It's a mid-tier 1 tower. It's going to fall. There's got to be weird moments, though, for Space Station where, you know, you kind of want to. The competitor in you wants to move out and try to find some fights here instead of just watching your base crumble, but maybe it's just the best option.
Yeah, with the gold deficit as it is, 6, nearly 7,000 favoring Ghost, it seems like SSG's strategy was to send Cherio over to that soul lane, and he does strip away the tier 1 tower from Ghost, forcing Final K to rotate out. If SSG can see that Ghost is split up at all, and now that they see Final K in right and Sam in left, I imagine we see a huge gank potential here. Nika could look for an ultimate in, try and separate Captain Twig. Rapper could look for a pluck, but it seems like they're still playing a little bit hesitant, and they give time for Final K and Sam to rotate in for the true 5-on-5.
Sam for Soccer around the backside of Space Station Gaming here. No stun from range from Dardez. Final K off to the right-hand side. Heart Bomb onto Rapper, double stun, but no follow-up there. It's just sort of the brute force walk down to the mid lane tower that Ghost Gaming have been looking for here. Interesting, you know, Mifflin, we don't often see the Isis out of the mid lane. We've seen it 2-3 times in the last couple of days. Dardez obviously Doomorb first, Ethereal Staff later on, but obviously, you know, there's enough slows moving in onto him as far as dive goes, and the Winged Blade maybe is the most viable item to keeping him alive a little longer.
It can certainly help, but it's not the slows that are killing him, it's that burst potential. Sure, Sam for Soccer is slowing you down so he can find that first auto attack, but if he touches you once, you're likely going to fall either way. Dardez, I think I would have preferred to see him go for a little bit more damage-centric build, or at least lean in towards the health like he is through this Ethereal Staff. I think once you're this far behind, I always preach this, defense from behind is much less valuable than it is from ahead. You want to have that comeback potential, but Sam for Soccer getting caught out.
And he's going to beads and then double dash, so Sam will stay alive, and now the script may actually have been flipped here. If Ghost Gaming can collapse in around the backside, Nika not here, does not have teleport to rejoin the fight. Sam for Soccer drops the ultimate onto Dardez. Captain Twig still moving in around the right as well. Blink in from Twig. Oh, look at that crushing wave. That'll half health your entire team, but now Ghost Gaming need to accept the help and find some kills here, and instead it's Space Station Gaming who found number 1, doing their best to turn around number 2 and number 3, but Ghost Gaming have something else to say about it. The collapse is here. Space Station Gaming turned tail, and they're headed back to base.
They gotta keep running, but Panic Cat's on the chase. That stun onto Dardez could be huge. Nika forced to use the ultimate, and is looking for the re-engage?
I'm not sure if they're gonna follow up there, and they won't. Tense moments. Captain Twig blinks in and does big damage. But it only results in a 2-for-1 for Ghost Gaming. I say only because there's not really much more map pressure to be gained or lost on the back end of things there. So maybe all things considered, Space Station Gaming happy that they were able to grab 1 kill and only lose 2.
And with the staggered death on the boat here, Space Station is going to have a hard time putting up a defense around this Fire Giant. Luckily for them, they were able to maintain the base. No Phoenixes have fallen down, so that could mean that they're able to step up. But Ghost Gaming is going to have Twig respawning a little bit sooner, meaning that they get the defensive positioning around the Fire Giant as well. The ward advantage, meaning that Space Station is going to have to fight into an uphill battle with a gold deficit 10k down, and now the vision deficit as well. It's going to be very hard. I'm surprised to see them positioning so far up, especially considering Vote just now spawns. If any single one of them gets caught out, if Rapper gets spotted, he could very easily lose his life. It seems like Space Station is just going to put up a soft defense around this Fire Giant, instead of electing to send Vote over into that long lane just to push it out a little bit. Ghost immediately optimize on it.
PBM's got the 3-level lead over Rapper going into this fight. Spear the Magus as well is going to help this Cerberus do some serious damage to somebody on the back line, or maybe the front line. Look at Rapper now. That health bar is disappearing. Mantle of Discord is going to save his life. It looks like this time there's a 3-man stun on the back end. Space Station Gaming, we're just going to slow down this fight, and Ghost Gaming, realizing they need a little extra time, will move away and maybe look at the Fire Giant in a few minutes.
Rafford does have the healing from Nika as well as the Sickening Strike to sustain himself back up. Panda Cat, largely the same, can use his hearts to keep his entire team alive, as he will do. Both teams back at full strength. Most of the relics are still down on the side of SSG. Take a peek at all those cooldowns. They just need about 20 seconds until they're healthy, so they're going to put up soft defenses until they're back up, and then we'll look for the engage. But Ghost Gaming putting the pressure on.
Yeah, a few moments is what I meant to say here. Rapper escaped last time, but you can't say the same here. No Mantle to stun out the aggression from Ghost Gaming. Fields of Love is going to lock Nika in place, but the dash away is going to come regardless. Sam for Soccer, he's found Vote here, and look at the damage that the Nemesis is providing. Ghost Gaming with 2, SSG with 1. As Final K looks for a little more. Jerio is going to go down.
Nika picks up a kill on the backside, but Twig still chasing. Uses Crushing Wave to close the gap. Dart is forced to use the circle protection. It's not enough.
Captain Twig rolls out the carpet here, and the Water Hands get the job done. Panda Cat, the one-on-one with Nika, will come easily enough. It's the DSI for Ghost Gaming. The laugh taunt from Panda Cat 25 minutes in.
They might be able to go for an end here if they had some minion waves pushed up, but instead with only 3 members and no one tanky enough to get that Phoenix down, they're instead going to back up to the Fire Giant. Polar Bear Mike should be able to get the benefit of that buff, but Sanford Soccer not going to be nearly as lucky unless Ghost Gaming decide to hold it on for 20 full seconds.
That's a long time.
That fight starts off with both supports trading out their lives for each other, which again is going to favor Space Station just because they're fighting into the deficit. But the second that Ghost Gaming was able to split up the fight, forces Vote to split off to the right side of the jungle, while the core 3 members, Nika, Cherio, and Dardes, are split off to the left. Once that fight is split, Ghost Gaming jump on one individual member at a time, and it just goes their way from there.
And we check back in with Sam. Obviously, Stone Cutting Sword, Ichabel, Toxic Blade, not surprising. Odysseus Bow, as well as now the Serrated Edge to kind of finalize that build. It is, isn't it? It's almost like half what you'd expect a Hunter to build and half what you'd expect one of these auto-attack junglers to build, but it's obviously doing some work here. He's 4-2 and 7, though mid-table as far as damage goes.
It's going to be hard for him to find the time to actually get those oboe procs off mid-team fight. It takes about 4 hits. I mean, you're not getting that many auto attacks off unless someone's already losing the fight. I would say that if you're already auto-attacking that many times, you've already won the fight. You're not going to be able to hit Dardes that many times. He'll die before the oboe proc comes through. These ultimates have been hugely impactful. I think that Sam might have benefited for going for a little bit more of an ability-focused build so they can burst down these backliners, but you can't fault the man. He's 4-2 and 7. He's looking real good. Middle of the table damage, sure enough. But once he gets in towards these objectives with this additional attack speed from the oboe, the penetration from Stone Cutting, all of that good stuff, he's going to absolutely decimate. But I'm still worried about how well he's able to do it. The self-peel that Space Station has is strong. Raffer can peel for himself with Tail Whip. Dardes has a silence and a stun. Cherio can knock you up and run away. Nika hops on the horse. I think Sanford Soccer might have missed an opportunity to look towards maybe a Heartseeker or an Erendite to help out with the chase down.
Yeah, that's big damage. Sanford Soccer maybe sensing that some extra uptime maybe in these fights, maybe more skirmish box potential is what the doctor ordered here. That's a 9 turns blessing from Cherio onto Fino K, and largely changes nothing. Will give himself the heal, but Fino K just sort of shrugs things off here. Is instead going to turn around with the ultimate as well. Beads and then disengage from Cherio. Ghost Gaming might be looking for the re-engage here, but instead it's a pluck from Rapper onto PBM. The Cerberus will walk his way back right outside this tier, or the mid lane Phoenix.
And Sam on the right side, left largely uncontested. If he's able to make contact with his Phoenix, it should melt away pretty quickly. Cherio, Nika spotted out, but look at it go.
Needs to double dash his way out of this one. Cherio now Blink, the last active used by Cherio, none of which have found all that much value. Captain Twig, he's alone in the back line here with Space Station Gaming. They need to finish off this kill, but I'm not sure they're going to be able to do so. Captain Twig still alive, snipes down. Nika is going to finish off the Hebo. PBM dashes his way away, but look at the Fields of Love from Panda Cat. The circle of protection from Dardes does go down, but will not slow down Ghost Gaming this time.
Sanford Soccer thinks for a moment that he might be willing to chase down Nika, but Cherio, just with the pressure on the right side, is able to deter him from looking for that chase down potential. A 1-for-1 trade, support for mid laner. Twig losing his life is going to be huge on this siege.
Yeah, it's tough. Oh, now look at the damage Panda Cat has taken. He has to leave now. Fine, okay, maybe feeling the same as well, but I'm not sure he's going to be given the chance. PBM attempting to peel for his solo laner. Won't do as much as that, but Cherio still doing damage. Look at the triple stun on the backline there. Space Station Gaming somehow survive it, and they're going to get the kill onto Cherio.
FineOK's knockup comes up just in time to knock Cherio out of that turtle form. Had he got it through, he likely would have picked up the kill onto Fine. He would have fallen to Panda Cat on the tail end, but any trade's a good trade when you're defending your base. But now FineOK goes back to base, TP's in, and he's already ready to tank up the right side Phoenix for his team.
Ghost Gaming still 4 members strong. Space Station Gaming have the same numbers for themselves. Ultimate for Dardes ready to go. Same for Nika as well. But the right side Phoenix needs a little extra help. Panda Cat is plucked back in, but it's going to dash away. Circle of Protection is zoned around by Ghost Gaming, and that's trapped Sam for Soccer off to the right-hand side. Fine, okay. Left to the Sharks in the Space Station base. It's a double kill for Nika. But Mifflin, you've lost your mid lane and now your right side Phoenix. That's a trade Ghost will happily take.
Let's take a macro view on it as well. They take down both Phoenixes right as the Fire Giant gets ready to respawn, meaning that in the next 40 seconds, they're going to all be respawned, ready to move in towards the Fire Giant themselves. Space Station's going to have a lot of time where they have to contend with fireman waves leaking down these lanes. Luckily for them, it wasn't the left side Phoenix that goes down, it's just the mid and right, meaning that Space Station's going to have an easier time pushing up these waves if they do decide to try and put up some sort of defense around the Fire Giant. But we're looking at, what is that, 15,000 gold separating these two teams.
Huge.
Ghost Gaming have a huge lead, approaching 6th item, true slotted, relics leveled up, wards out the wazoo. They're going to have the vision advantage, the defensive positioning advantage, the gold advantage, and the numbers, unless SSG pulled away now.
Yeah, you got, I don't know, what, 10 seconds before FineOK is back in the fight, and that is maybe all SSG think they might need for this one. Panda Cat is close by, who's had a massive game, by the way, 7-0-6, and he'll have a large hand in how this fight goes. Heart Bomb down, Fields of Love as well. Rapper lurking in the waters as PBM is going to leap away. Both supports trade spots, and they both lose about the same amount of life as one another, and the Fire Giant has been stalled for now.
Space Station do all they can in that spot. They have to go for the cheeky, take away the sneaky Fire Giant, because that's really the only opportunity that they're going to have. But they didn't trade out any of their lives. They're afforded that opportunity. They are going to need to go back to base soon. Take a peek at that mid lane. Minions are already starting to flood into the Titan.
The upgraded shell for Panda Cat instead of the Aegis. That's going to block
Look at
some
Sam.
extra auto attack damage on the backside. Yeah, interesting rotation here from Sam for Soccer, but you've already lost PBM. This rotation needs to be worth it now. Vote self-peel up to the sky. He goes double stun on a Nika and Rapper. FineOK split from the rest of his squad, and the beads will keep the King Arthur alive. Sam for Soccer definitely in a spot now where Space Station might be able to collapse.
Easy collapse. 4 members on the bottom, 3 members up top. Sam for Soccer's going down for free here. 60 seconds left on his spawn, 40 on PBM. They've got the right side pushed up. Mid still leaking into the base. They're going to send Cherio back, but SSG in a position where they might be able to pick away the EFG here. We might have a game on our hands.
Seems like we do. Space Station Gaming not ready to be out of this one yet. Enhanced Fire Giant, of course, as you mentioned there, Mifflin. Panda Cat stays alive, but had to use the upgraded shell that we were previously talking about there. It is Fire Giant now pulled by SSG. Luck is going to go just wide of FineOK. 3 members of Ghost Gaming lurking around. Space Station 5 strong. waiting for PBM to come back up. He's respawning in the next 3 or 4 seconds, but it's going to take some time to get back into the fight here. Cherio forces back Fano on the left-hand side. These are tense moments, Mifflin. Ghost Gaming buying maybe just enough time. Taunt back in from Cherio. Pluck over onto Captain Twig. It's a Fields of Love. It's a 5 versus 3 that Ghost Gaming are trying to take here, but Vote is going to make it a 5 for 2. Cherio finds Fino K, and that's the cavalry charge, and down goes the Arthur. Ghost Gaming, they've been in charge from the onset of this game, but maybe no more. Space Station turn back for the FG.
That mid Phoenix is spawning now. They're likely going to have to give up the Phoenix if they want to look towards that Fire Giant. Dardes maintains his ultimate. That circle protection is going to be the best confirmation tool on the map, but PBM not letting him back.
Mike has not much help here from the rest of his team and is just going to try to sidestep a little, but Vote will get the kill. What a turnaround from this ROM as well. Sam on the chase for Dardes. I don't question how far he's willing to go here. The rest of SSG collapsing. Interesting call there from Mike. Maybe feeling as if the rest of Ghost was close enough by to collapse had he found the engage. Luckily, I think Mifflin, sort of because of the map state here, Space Station is going to back off instead of the FG. That mid lane Phoenix ended up falling again.
Yeah, Mike buys just enough time stopping those banks to get that mid Phoenix to go back down. It might not be worth his life, but Ghost Gaming have slowed down Space Station despite having a numbers disadvantage. And every single time it looked like they might be able to look towards the Fire Giant. The burn was just too slow. Dardes never really had an opportunity to drop the ultimate to look for the confirmation. Ghost Gaming is slowly walking in almost one by one for the defense, and that is an opportunity afforded to them by the lead that they have in the map presence. Normally, in a situation like that, you are just giving up everything on the map. But because Ghost had already taken out the mid and right side Phoenix, they're doing a good job of slowing down SSG. But now again, a 5-man group on the Fire, Cherio is going to be the one to pull it.
And Sam is not going to be here. Sam wants the base instead. Space Station Gaming need to make an advanced call here. Nika pops. An extra little bit of power there. It's going to be a duel on the left-hand side. More importantly here is the FG, though. Collapse in. Fields of Love down. Space Station Gaming peel this one away. Cherio trying to out-duel Panda Cat. Not going to work for you this time. Vote up to the skies. Going to find some snipes down, but Fino K's gotten the kill. Nika luckily will get one. Fino has the stun on to Vote. 3 members down for Space Station. Ghost Gaming might be able to walk this one in.
That could be the game. Panda Cat's going to be able to sustain up with his hearts on the way. EFG on 2 members. Nika does find the solo kill into Sam for Soccer, but trades out that left side Phoenix. With no ultimate available for the Guan Yu, neither for the Sobek, it could be just that all Ghost has to do is to make it into the Titan room. After that, it should just write its own history.
Ghost Gaming. They've slowed down. SSG maybe turning things around here. Nika and Rapper against the world. Panda Cat has come online. Huge here in the late. That's the stun on Nika. Pulled back in. Captain Twig with the shutdown. Ghost Gaming. They're going to walk this one in. Rapper can't find the pluck. Game 3. Goodbye. Ghost Gaming. Get rid of SSG.
But SSG didn't make it easy for them. That was a long game. They played it hard. They played the defense well. It seemed like for just a moment, after a couple of those Fire Giant skirmishes, they would have been able to hold on. But unfortunately for them, it never amounted to much. That lead that Ghost Gaming had going into those Fire Giant dances was just insurmountable.
Yeah, way too much. There was the pushback, of course, from Space Station. But this is big for Ghost Gaming. Remember, SSG, they lost in, what, week 2 or week 3 to Ghost, but have not lost since. And Ghost, they've still looked very strong, but, they stumble against Renegades, they lose a little bit earlier on. This is big for Ghost Gaming to rebuild some of that confidence, I think, in moving forward. What a set to start off the Saturday. It's the week of 3-game sets, I suppose. Ghost Gaming win this one over SSG 2-1. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll round out the set.
So it ended up being a much closer Game 3 than I think Ghost would like to admit. But in the end, Ghost take care of it and continue to be the kryptonite of SSG. They find the 2-1. Perhaps, I think, thanks to Sam making that split push over there at left Gore. I mean, the Guan Yu was the most impactful player on the map in the late game, and he happened to take him somewhere else instead of the fight.
Yeah, if you pull Nika anywhere away from the fight, SSG are going to suffer. And I think that's true regardless of how the game is going and what pick Nika is on. But I think that was especially true in this one. I mean, he was 8-2 the last time I glanced down there. Unfortunately for him, if he's not there, this ISIS wasn't really doing anything for SSG. And there was just too much impact on the side of Ghost where they were lacking it on Space Station. You know, you look at the mid laners. Twig might have a 5-4-9 slash line, but 1-5-10 on the other side. Maybe more assists by 1. But ultimately, Dardes just didn't really get to do a whole lot for the team. I think we didn't get to see as big of an impact from Raffer for a majority of the early game. And Vote, unfortunately, never really got to get his feet underneath him either. PandaCat, once again, 8-0-8. The Cupid today has been popping off.
It absolutely has. PandaCat had an excellent game. Really, all of SSG did, or rather, Ghost did at the beginning of the game and into the mid game. But that late game really started to get scary when Space Station were just out team fighting them. Ghost started looking fractured for my money, where they were taking the fights in weird areas. They started doing the assembly line in, we like to say, towards the fire giant and dying there one by one over and over again. I mean, Nika, I think, got a solo kill in the final K during this game as well. So this one was not clean or easy for Ghost by any means, as it shouldn't be. They're against one of the other best teams in the league. But still, being able to win those games is what it means to be a top team, and Ghost were able to come out on top thanks to, I don't know, man, just some know-how from Sam to be able to finally split that fight up.
And I'm actually really happy. So 2 numbers, I guess technically 4 numbers, stood out to me on the stats screen more than anything. First off, there was a 10,000 damage difference between Twig and Dardes, which really shows the impact of this first pick, Hebo, and why Ghost Gaming kept going back to it. But there was also the fact that not even 100 damage separated Vote and PandaCat, yet PandaCat was 8-0-8, right? And that is what starts to blow my mind, because you have to look at it as the effective poke damage that Vote is putting out, none of it getting converted over to kills, whereas PandaCat, especially through a lot of those highlights, but a lot of these team fights as well, almost always able to make sure that damage mattered. And that play, if there was anything Twig does best, other than being just a pure lightning rod, it feels like, for the hate of every team against Ghost Gaming, it's also some good setup.
Yeah, Twig very willing to put himself in harm's way if it means success for the squad. Never like to be turning yellow in the air already, as you just saw there for Sam, but otherwise a very good game for him. And I think Ghost now starting to make their comeback, obviously. I know they had some stumbles with that loss they had earlier up against Renegades, and drop it down to 8-3 or whatever their record was, not as impressive as they would have normally liked. Now starting to get right back on track here with this win up against Space Station. I think this is what you kind of pointed out, right? Ghosts are okay with however these games go, as long as they know against the best, they can turn it on when they need to.
And for some reason, specifically Space Station's kryptonite. I mean, the one loss that SSG has had this phase was to Ghost. Now the second loss they have to anyone in this phase, well, it was the Ghost again. And, you know, they do it 5 weeks apart. I guess technically 6 if you include the bye week. But all of that comes through in the fact that SSG have only lost to one team. I think that's another sign for them that you aren't sweating. You know, you're going up against your Radiances, your Sanguines, your E-Uniteds, Obeys, Renegades, Knights, any of them, and they'll play the field. But it does make you worry if you have trouble with them. You've already played them twice. You'll play them one more time throughout the rest of this phase. If you lose to Ghost again, that is the one team you don't want to see going into Worlds, right? You want nothing to do with Ghost when you get there. So I think Ghost, whatever they figured out about SSG, they need to hold on to it and hold on to it tight, because they've been winning this matchup pretty consistently.
They are the team that is ahead. Even if they lose the next matchup, they've got the 2-1 in the head-to-head. So Ghost, at least matchup-wise, appear to be the better team. But we'll get to hear a little bit more from Ghost themselves. Maybe they could tell us if they are the better team. Captain Twig is the one standing by for the interview with Dulcet.
Captain Twig is here with me. First off, big congrats to you, Captain Twig, on the win over here over SSG. In second place in the standing are you guys, but you're the only 2 losses that the first place team has had. That's obviously got to feel pretty good. And you know, the win for you guys, I want to start though with game 2. And you know, it's a 20-minute loss effectively for you guys. How does the team sort of regroup after something like that and then prepare mentally for a big game 3?
Well, game 2 was rough. We went over a few of the mistakes, but to be honest, I think that was maybe the worst SPL game I've had all of Season 7. So it's easy when you can just, you know, take a bit of the blame and just say, yep,
Sure.
I'm just going to focus up, play well next game.
Yeah, every once in a while you just say, all right, it's time to brush off game 2. Let's move on to game 3 and win it there. And speaking of you get Hebo all throughout the set here. Brilliant in game 1, maybe a little rough by your own words there in game 2, and then I think good there in game number 3. What is it about the Hebo pick maybe that gives you confidence to pick it so early? Do you think you're just comfortable into most matchups with that god?
Well, a few things. I think the character's really easy to play, which is, you know, up my I'm playing it for an easy character to do a lot of work with, so I don't really know why they gave it to me.
Right, I mean, I even mentioned, you know, game 1, you die 6 times, but you're on top of the day by the end of it. You're doing everything you need to do there. So definitely interesting, I think, from that perspective. A different pick, I think, that we saw a lot first couple of games was Mike on this Ymir. Maybe explain to me some of your guys' thought process on the Ymir, why he might be more competitively viable than we previously thought.
Well, I think it's a lot to do with some of the supports on the other, like slightly lower or less win teams right now, like Obey and I think even Awesome Jake on Renegades plays it, and we've definitely scrimmed them, and I think we've kind of Mike's come to the conclusion that you know, in his hands, Ymir could be even better, kind of thing, and he absolutely played super well on Ymir this set.
Yeah, there were the small micro moments that just made massive differences in a lot of those fights. Captain Twig, thanks for sitting down with me. Big congrats. Cannot wait to see you guys in action. I believe it's against Sanguine the next time we'll see you, so that's a fun one to look forward to. Ladies and gentlemen at home, that's only half of the SPL Saturday we've got for you. Stick around. Sanguine versus PK right after this.